Generation awakens on Y254, the leading youth TV station in Kenya. We treat you to current affairs, entrepreneurship, health, and human interest conversations.
It's art, it's culture,
movies, gossip and trends, sports,
drama.
We bring you a vibe like no other, straight to your living room.
To keep you informed, inspired, entertained, and most of all, refreshed.
We are such a vibe.
Y254. Imagine.
Good morning, Kenya. This is KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Lo. How are you doing? All right. So being the 24th day of September 2024, we also want still to continue with covering what is happening politically speaking. Yesterday, Danson Mungatana, who is the senator of Tana River, was on this very set. We had a discussion in as far as the impeachment of the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is concerned, and he sat here almost 1.5 hours, and he was so stunned on that discussion. So, hours later, he filed a motion of impeachment, a notice of motion that is to impeach the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua on the basis that he is demeaning the office of the Deputy President. So today, I want us to continue that discussion. I'll be joined by two analysts. That is George Kithi, who is the advocate of the High Court, and Mugambi, a gentleman called Mugambi, Lawrence Mugambi, who is also joining me. He's also a political analyst. I want us to take a look at some of the processes that it would mean to impeach the Deputy President and what it would really mean for the Kenya Kwanza administration, step by step, if that is the case. And the Deputy President says that he is actually appealing to the President to save him from the impeachment. That is a discussion I'll be having here with my guest at exactly 7. You know how we do it. Stick around with that. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Victor. And actually, what you have said is what is carried on the front page of The Standard. They are saying DP's troubles pile as leaders aim for spoils. That is, Tana River Senator Danson Mungatana wants the Senate to censure the Deputy President, even as senior Mount Kenya leaders position themselves should the looming impeachment idea materialize and vacancies occur. This is going to be a very interesting political scenario, given that already politicians have taken stance, because there are those that are supporting the Deputy President and there are those that are against him. So it is going to be an interesting time to see what happens in the coming days, and that is going to be a very interesting conversation that you are going to have with the guests that are coming on studio today. Welcome to the program. My name is Mike Migwe, and of course it's a Tuesday, and as we do on Tuesday, we are going to have the health segment. We are going to talk about postpartum hemorrhage. What is it? What are the risk factors? Who are the people at risk, and how can it be managed? And that conversation, I'm going to have it with two people who are in the medical field. One of them is Dr. Kireki Omanwa, who is the president of Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society, and also Naomi Mutiso, who is a midwife at Thika Level 5 Hospital. So we want to tune into that conversation, which will come later on in the program. All right. Good morning, Ray.
Good morning to you, gentlemen, and you've just set the pace of the conversation that, you know, in regard to what is happening in the political scene. And we've seen over the weekend the hashtag Usiguze Mrima
actually trending on various social media platforms, and that was on a very light note. So we'll be keeping tabs on that. That is one of the major developments that we're having in the political scene, and the ripple effect of that motion there set in motion by Senator Mungatana. How is it going to affect politics going forward? Is this the deal that breaks the back when it comes to the Kenya Kwanza unity? And also remember, we are all focused on the AUC chairmanship that is by former Premier Raila Odinga. Is he going to clinch it? Also on one of the various dailies, there has quite the headline there that's showing among the people who accompanied the president to Berlin, Germany, is one man who's already been indicted, you know, for being a fraud, or rather offering fake jobs. All this is going to be coming up in the course of In the Headlines, as well as Good Morning Kenya this morning on KBC Channel 1. Now, I think we pick it up from that now that we have that censure motion that has against the Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua by Senator Danstan Mungatana has provided political fodder among politicians, with some warning this could hurt the government activities. This even as a section of politicians faulted the DP for allegedly attacking the government he served, while religious leaders have called for a political ceasefire. Here's our reporter Joseph Wahungu with the details of the political drumbeats as all eyes now shift to Speaker Amason Kingi to either okay the censure motion or reject it.
The conduct of the Deputy President, who is the principal assistant to the President, is set to become a subject of discussion in the Senate if a censure motion filed by Senator Danstan Mungatana receives the green light for debate.
I am motivated to file this censure motion against the holder of the office of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya because of conduct and becoming of that office.
The motion filed on Monday wants the conduct of the DP as a state officer scrutinized over claims he has made public utterances that demean his.
Now, just in case you missed exactly what happened at Senate, that was just a quick sneak peek onto what was happening yesterday when Danstan Mungatana, Senator there, provided that political, or rather set in motion the matters of the ouster of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. And the question is, what ripple effect will this then have on the political scene, especially on government, with all eyes now focused on Speaker Amason Kingi? Here are some of the reactions as filed by Joseph Wahungu.
Really, thank you.
The simmering political tension appeared to boil over Monday following the move by Senator Danstan Mungatana to file a censure motion against Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, a move that appears to have further fueled the political climate, with a section of politicians accusing the DP of shooting himself in the foot.
The position of Deputy President must remain of appointment, being appointed by the President. And there will be all these suckers you hear. Deputy President should be an appointee of the President, not a running mate. Because when he becomes a running mate, he feels he's also a president.
KOTU Secretary General Francis Atwoli and Busia County Governor Dr. Paul Otuoma have faulted the DP for allegedly stirring political temperatures. They claim that Gachagua's onslaught is a clear indication that he is opposed to the broad-based government.
Hii Kenya belongs to all of us. Hakuna ile Mkenya ambaye hata kama alipiga kura kivipi afai kuwa Mkenya. So mimi nataka kuhimiza viongozi wetu wa kimataifa ambao wameanza makali ya kisiasa ambayo ni ya ukabila kwamba hatuwezi kuchukua mkondo huo.
This as the clergy in Siaya called for a political ceasefire, warning the ongoing political chest stamping will trigger ethnic divisions.
I'm appealing to His Excellency the Deputy President and those who are on that line. Please let us tame our tongues and then give the President the honor that is due for them.
They should talk to one another in private, because even their spouses are from the background of faith. so they can consult and talk together and consult and bring peace to the nation.
And you can bet that is continuing to have a ripple effect on matters politics, and we're going to be keeping tabs on the developments. Now, striking lecturers have accused the police of employing brutal force to try and disrupt the strike, which they claim is legitimate. Through the University Academic Staff Union and the Kenya University Staff Union, the Dons claim it was unfortunate that 20 university workers were arrested and several others injured while legitimately trying to present their petition to relevant authorities as dictated by the Constitution.
The demonstrating Dons intended to present a petition to the government turned chaotic when police used tear gas to disperse the crowd before they could march towards Parliament. Despite initial chaos, the demonstrators regrouped at the Parliament buildings, determined to deliver their message. But their efforts were thwarted once again as police returned using tear gas to break up the gathering, leading to chaotic scenes at the Central Business District. During the protest, over 20 university workers were arrested and several others injured during the clash. The unions condemned the incident, claiming they had given prior notice to the police about their peaceful intentions.
It was not necessary for the police to behave in the manner in which they behaved. It is barbaric, it is primitive, it is uncalled for, and the Kenyan police must style up.
A police officer tear gassing Dons? What mistake have we committed? We gave them a notice. I have the notice here. They received this notice. And today we told them to provide us with security.
And we want to tell the police we are still going to do a peaceful procession again. We are not going to stop because of tear gas. Yes. Let them prepare them. We are prepared to walk again.
The lecturers vowing to soldier on, insisting that their voices must be heard by the government.
What is it that the government is afraid of anyway? What is it? Presenting a petition, is that something to scare government? It shouldn't. And if they continue like this, then it makes us believe that there is something that the government is hiding.
The notice is going out for next Monday demonstration because we have not reached Parliament. We have not reached Jogo House. We have not reached Treasury. River Nile shall reach the Mediterranean Sea.
In the petition, public university workers demand for the implementation of the 2021-2025 CBA, harmonization of allowances, a 40% automatic annual increment, budget allocations for promotions, and the immediate payment of deferred salaries for Egerton University staff.
Only at the university. That's where you find people are being paid 57% of salary. That is where you find deferred pay. That is where you find somebody stagnating in a position for over 20 years. And university workers are saying no to impunity in our sector.
We want the CS Minister of Education to budget for promotion and recruitment of 15,000 plus lecturers in public universities. We are waiting for CBC students to join our universities, while we are only a paltry 10,000.
We shall never be divided, for the union makes us strong.
That was yesterday with the university Dons make do with their challenge there to the government and to authorities to continue working until their demands are met. Actually, that particular report handed over to Parliament. We'll be keeping tabs on that too. Now we cross over to New York, where President William Ruto is urging African nations to end reliance on external aid and critical areas such as healthcare. Now, the head of state says the African nations need to develop their own financing models that can ensure the continent has access to capital that can build quality health infrastructure needed.
Speaking during the launch of the Program for Investment and Financing in Africa in New York, President William Ruto challenged African countries to take charge of their own destiny through breaking free from reliance of nations outside Africa on crucial services such as healthcare.
None of this can be sustained without rethinking how we fund these initiatives. Africa's rights depends on ensuring that our continent has access to capital that can build the healthcare infrastructure that we need.
Highlighting the need for Africa to create its own financing models, particularly for such critical sectors, the head of state criticized the current global economic framework as a relic that forces regions like Africa to restart from a position of disadvantage.
1.4 billion people that live in our continent, to have an organization that is accountable. And it is the reason why we are rethinking the Pan-African Parliament to provide more oversight over the Africa Union Commission.
President William Ruto at the same time lauded emerging partnerships that aim to revolutionize Africa's healthcare system, including AI-powered digital health wallets for all Africans, which he says are clear pathways for Africa's potential to become a global innovation leader.
There cannot be a better place to figure out health, education, and social services than in Africa, where the median age is 19 and a half. That is the place where education means everything. That is the place where health means a lot.
He, however, warned that such initiatives cannot thrive without rethinking their funding, calling on regional leaders to act to attract investment in social sectors like healthcare.
I am also dedicated to working with all of you to find the answers necessary for us to forge a new future.
What are the outcomes of the UNGA? Those are the main questions. And where does Kenya stand, or rather Africa stand, especially when it comes to financing, looking at also matters of climate change? This is also a conversation that is going to continue taking center stage in New York. And later in the year, we're expecting COP29 to also take place in November in Baku, Azerbaijan. Now, the government has not finalized any deal with Adani Holding for the lease of the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi says the evaluation committee is looking into the deal, has raised 22 concerns with Adani, among them the proposed concession of 30 years, proposed tax exemption for the Indian firm, and re-engagement of KAA employees, among others. Mbadi says the deal is currently on hold due to pending court cases.
With respect to the matters before the committee,
Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi Monday afternoon appeared before the Senate Committee on Road and Transport over the thorny JKIA Adani deal.
This process is ongoing. As a matter of fact, if it went to conclusion, the Senate would now be investigating a matter that has all the facts presented. But as it is, there are certain aspects of it that could still be ongoing.
CS Mbadi, in a 19-page response, says that the deal between the government and the Indian company is currently under the due diligence stage but has been halted due to an active court case.
That the due diligence, which was supposed to be continuing under Section 27, is now on hold because the matter is in court.
To proceed procedurally, you should have allowed the CS to go through the documents he has brought.
In a heated session that saw a back and forth between the members and the CS.
Please, let's respect each other. Allow the CS to. If you ask me a question, I've come here. This is a matter of national importance, for heaven's sake. Let us be
the reason why I am reacting to you the way I am is because you've not even seen the matter.
I have not come here.
And you're busy responding. Stop gatekeeping.
I've come here.
These things you can't gatekeep anymore. Stop gatekeeping.
And please,
we must deal with this issue nationally. It's a national important issue.
Supply information, wait for the information. If you don't need it, Kenyans need it.
Revealed that the evaluation committee had identified 22 issues in the proposal and recommended that the issues be addressed by the Adani Airport Holdings Limited at the project development phase.
You are required to provide confirmation that none of these people are listed on World Bank and PPRA list of ineligible firms. Surely that does not mean that they can tell you themselves that we are not listed. That is not the standard.
It was confirmed through checking the website of World Bank.
Among the key recommendations is to have the contracting authority to ensure that the current employees of JKIA are onboarded by the company on priority basis and on better terms.
Further, that the concessionaire gives preference to recruitment of Kenyan nationals in all positions. And I'm sure the honorable members would understand why I'm emphasizing the issue of JKIA employees, because it was very contentious.
Further, Kisii Senator Richard Onyonka claimed that there were other two companies from India and America that expressed interest in the JKIA deal, but the Kenyan government settled for Adani.
And a company called Nexus Logic, they wanted to come to Jomo Kenyatta Airport on the Wednesday, 10th of July 2024. Then they wanted to come to the Mombasa International Airport, and they were going to Kisumu and Eldoret. And this letter is here, it's received by your office.
The only PIP proposal received procedurally at the directorate was the one of Adani of 1st March. In fact, I even mentioned there was an earlier one of 2023.
Treasury has also affirmed that officers from the Treasury, Transport alongside KAA officials are in India interrogating the deal.
There is one officer who, alongside representation from KAA and the Ministry of Transport, went to India for due diligence. And that is the assignment they were given. And that process is still ongoing.
And I want to advise, yes, but we know you just came the other day. Don't carry anybody's cross. If this thing is grey, call it as it is. Run away.
The deal that is now facing a litany of cases has seen former Vice President Kalonzo Musyoka move to the court to oppose the alleged lease.
Actually, before you convince the Attorney General to sign the concession, you have to prove that you have complied with the law. And so that will be complied with.
Adani issues. Now the government is ramping up efforts to complete stalled road projects and initiate new projects, crucial for facilitating the movement of people and goods to help accelerate Kenya's economic transformation. Speaking in Kinangop, Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki, together with Transport Cabinet Secretary Davis Churchill, assured Kenyans of speedy completion of the projects, also emphasized the importance of national unity in enhancing development.
Interior Cabinet Secretary Kithure Kindiki Monday joined forces with Transport Cabinet Secretary Davis Churchill, Kinangop MP Kwenya Fuku and other local leaders to celebrate the resumption of the fully funded construction of the 40.5-kilometer engineer Mbiginano Gathara to Laga Mbirithi Chuma Road project.
Nataka kuamrisha County Commissioner wa hapa Nyandarua ujue ya kwamba wewe ndio unapaswa kuhakikisha kwamba miradi yote ya serikali ya wizara zote, barabara, maji, stima inaendelea. Na kama kuna kasoro yoyote, kwa mfano ugundue ya kwamba contractor ametoka kwa site, upige ripoti mara moja ili hatua ichukuliwe.
During the event, Kindiki reassured Kenyans of the government's commitment to the swift completion of ongoing development projects, underscoring the administration's focus on enhancing infrastructure to support economic growth.
Watu ambao wanatoka sehemu hii, zile kazi ndogo ndogo za hapa zipewe watu ambao wanatoka katika hiyo sehemu.
The leaders called on Kenyans to unite for a common goal of building a prosperous nation.
Tukiendelea na umoja, watu kutoka sehemu hata zingine wataweza kufika hapa Central ili tuwe na Kenya moja. Tusiwe ni Kenya ambayo tuko na migawanyiko mingi.
Now, 4 suspects who are believed to have been part of a group of more than 15 individuals who allegedly planned, abducted, assaulted and sodomized a 25-year-old blogger in Mombasa were arraigned at the Shanzu Law Court in Mombasa. The 4, namely Abdul Hassan, Haji Babu, Esther Muthoni and Violet Adera, who appeared before Senior Resident Magistrate Robert Mbogo, denied the charges. They were facing charges of conspiracy to commit a felony and abduction with the intent to confine. Abdul Hassan and Haji Babu had additional charges of gang rape and assault with the intention to cause actual body harm. The blogger was allegedly sexually abused following a social media video he posted that is said to have angered a top county official. The accused persons were remanded at the Shimolatewa Remand Prison, awaiting the ruling on their bail application set for Thursday this week.
Nia ya kumzuia kisiri kinyume na sheria. Abdul Hassan, unakubali au unakataa? Nakataa. Haji Babu, unakubali au unakataa? Nakataa. Esther Mudhoni, unakubali au unakataa? Nakataa. Violet Adera, unakubali au unakataa? Shtaka la tatu, mnashtakiwa na kosa la ulawiti kinyume na sheria. Maelezo ni kwamba tarehe 12 Septemba mahali pasipojulikana katika kaunti ya Mombasa, ukiwa na wengine ambao hawamo hapa kotini, ulisababisha uume wako kuingia katika tupu ya nyuma ya mtuhumiwa katika kesi hii. Unakubali au unakataa?
Nakataa. We have applied for bond. We do apply for bond with an alternative of cash bail.
It is taken or presumed that the prosecution had considered bond as a right, and that's why we went fast, to indicate to the court that indeed we filed an affidavit in opposition of that right.
Investigations which are still underway to arrest the remaining suspects, record statements, including that of Mombasa County Governor, his mother and other senior prominent government officials who have intelligence reports that they are assisting some of the suspects to go into hiding, and this can be confirmed by their communication, which has gone off air.
May justice be served. Now, to matters business, farmers and other creditors owed by the Ministry of Agriculture will be paid by the end of June next year. Agriculture Cabinet Secretary Andrew Karanja says the move is part of a raft of measures aimed at reducing the ministry's expenditure that targets to keep pending bills at a below 1% of the total budgetary allocation.
The Ministry of Agriculture says it is planning to pay an estimated 500 million shillings it owes to maize farmers, among other pending bills, by the end of June next year. In a raft of measures aimed at reducing pending bills, the ministry says it will ensure that money owed to suppliers and creditors will not be more than 1% of the total budgetary allocations.
And if there is to be any pending bills at any given point in time, it should not exceed 1% of the annual budgetary provision.
We have to work together so that we get the 100%. It will not be easy, but we have to work to that.
To increase efficiency, the ministry is planning to digitize all its operations this financial year.
This ministry has onboarded a total of 1,411 services.
Digitization is expected to increase targeted interventions in the agriculture value chain by increasing donor fund utilization.
We cannot have farmers being told to do ABCD and other things. We want to facilitate farmers to do whatever they are supposed to do, grow crops, market them in a better way.
The ministry is also seeking to increase e-voucher system and fertilizer subsidy provision by 50% during the same period.
The number of farmers on the e-voucher program will also be increased by 50% as at 30th June 2025.
They were speaking during the ministerial performance contract commitments for 2024-2025 financial year.
Now we focus on sports, where Football Kenya Federation has unveiled a 5-member electoral board ahead of the FKF national elections set to be held in December this year. The board is chaired by Hesbon Owila.
The electoral board members were selected by the delegates during the FKF special general meeting held on the 24th of last month. Chairing the board will be Hesbon Owila, who promised to conduct a free and fair election.
I'm confident in the team that you have before you here, because we have sat down, we have understood the whole process, we've known each other, and we are happy that the confidence that was bestowed on us by the NEC and the National Delegates Conference is a confidence that all of us have agreed to take and to see that this process runs to its conclusion.
Other members sitting on the electoral board include Sports Journalists Association of Kenya President James Waindi, Alfred Nganga, Dan Mule and Marceline Sande, who will serve as the Secretary General.
So we understand that this moment means so much to the football community in Kenya, to the young kids growing up knowing that football is something that can offer a professional livelihood. We know football represents hope, renewal and the promise of a thriving economic ecosystem almost everywhere, and an opportunity for football stakeholders to run football in this country presents itself with the unveiling of this board.
Farida Lucia Juma and Robert Akumwasembo are the standby members. The newly unveiled board will now embark on preparing and conducting the national FKF elections slated for December this year.
Let's go global, where North Korea defeated Japan 1-0 to win the third Women's Under-20 World Cup in Colombia. Chloe Sun was the hero as she netted a brilliant winner in the 15th minute to hand North Korea the trophy. Chloe won the golden ball, while silver ball went to Japan's Manaka and bronze ball to USA's Ali Santor. Korea shocked several big favorites on the road to glory in Bogota, including the USA and Brazil. Korea now joins Germany and the USA as the only three-time champions at the FIFA Under-20 Women's World Cup. It was Japan's third successful final in the competition, but they have now surrendered defeat in the last two editions. Poland will host the next edition of the Under-20 Women's World Cup in August 2026.
And the shot over the top from Sin Hyang. And that's it. Wild celebrations for the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. Their third global title at this level of the women's game, and fully deserved. And DPR Korea win the trophy, beating Japan in the final by 1-0.
Congratulations to the ladies now. Now back home is that Father Sahaya Selvam and the Salesians of Don Bosco have officially commenced a week-long fundraising walk from Subukia Shrine to the Shrine of Mary Help of Christians in Upper Hill. Now the 221-kilometer walk for 7 days is expected to raise funds to set up a modern spirituality center specifically designed to foster a youth-friendly environment in the heart of Nairobi. It also aims to educate and evangelization efforts within the region, focusing particularly on the youth of Africa. The participants who have embarked on this particular journey, the Salesians, are calling on the community and supporters to contribute to this worthy cause.
I'm Father Sahaya Selvam, a Salesian of Don Bosco. We Salesians of Don Bosco, we focus on youth, their holistic formation. So one of the intentions of this pilgrimage and walk of 221 kilometers from Subukia National Shrine to the Shrine of Mary Help of Christians is to gather funds to build a youth-friendly, holistic spirituality center at the Shrine of Mary Help of Christians, and we call that Marian Shrine Spirituality Center. Welcome and support us in whatever way you can. And this whole pilgrimage, 12 of us will walk the whole distance for 8 days, and we arrive on the 28th of September this month, next Saturday in Nairobi. So we stop our stopovers for the nights are parishes, Catholic parishes. Today we are walking 32 kilometers from Subukia to Dunduri. Then the next day from Dunduri to Wolkalau, and then Manunga. From Manunga to Engineer North Kinangop Parish, and then from Kinangop to Magumu, then Kamirithu, DBS Karen, and on the last day 16 kilometers from DBS Karen to Upper Hill. So 8 days walk. Yeah.
Indeed, walking there for a worthy cause there, and if you're a Catholic especially, you know that the shrine in Subukia for its healing powers and such purposes. That puts a cap on matters In the headlines this morning on Good Morning Kenya, I leave in the capable hands of Victor as he unpacks what is happening in the political scene, especially with that censure motion of Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. Have a pleasant day ahead. I'm Regina Manyara.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Well, go on, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth reggae vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday with me, DJ_Liza Diva,
DJ Cold,
and me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa Hadija ai Mani especially ukisonga
Okay, very good. Welcome back to the program. The time now is for us to get into the political arena, and this is how we do it. Good morning, welcome back. My name is Victor Olo. On People and Politics today, as I earlier mentioned, yesterday, the Senator of Tana River, Dunstan Mungatana, I beg your pardon, on this very set, sat here and we discussed the issue of the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua, at length. Actually, we took almost 1 hour discussing that. Little did we know, or did I know, that that notice of motion was going to file that notice of motion with the Senate. And so today, the notice of motion is out. It was received by the Speaker of the Senate, Amason Jeffer Kingi. And now, we are going to talk about what are some of the processes that it would take to impeach a deputy president, number one. Number two, what did it really cost the Mount Kenya region? And if at all he's impeached, what some of the options will the president have to have this government running until 2027? Paul Mugambi is a political analyst joining me on set for the very first time. Good to see you, sir.
See you, thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
And Wakili George Kithi is also with me on set. Actually, he's sitting where Wakili also sat. By the way, Danso Mugasani is also senior counsel, right?
Yes,
Karibu sana to the program.
Thank you. Asante sana.
Karibu. So let's take a look at the front pages very fast. Let me start with the front page of the Star newspaper. Counties burnt 10 billion shillings on luxury and fuel in 1 year. That is what is here. On the front page of the Star newspaper, counties burnt 10 billion shillings on luxury and fuel in a year. And on the inner pages, you can take a look who are the lowest spenders and the highest spenders. Now, top 3. 1. Kakamega spent 521 million shillings in a year, Nakuru 442.24 million shillings, and Bungoma 433.1 million shillings. The extravagant expenditures are claimed under operations and maintenance. That is what is here. And so, some 37 devolved units spent 5.12 billion shillings on hospitality alone. Okay. So what austerity do we have? You can take a look at that story on the inner pages of the Star newspaper. Let me continue on the other page of front page of the Daily Nation. 720 million shillings jobs fraud suspect who was en route to Germany trip. That is what is here. 720 million shillings job fraud suspect who was en route to Germany trip. The gentleman is also on the front page. Let me give you the reader. Hundreds of Mr. Caesar Kingori victims, Kenyans and foreigners included, have recorded statements with the detectives, but efforts to have their money refunded have hit a brick wall. Although he was not part of President William Ruto's recent delegation to Germany to sign labor agreements, Mr. Caesar Wagisheru Kingori, alias Shrewd of Vintmark Travel Agents Limited, managed to find his way to Berlin while he was hobnobbing with leaders at meetings on overseas work opportunities. He had left a trail of victims of his jobs racket back home, where investigators had summoned him for questioning. That is what is here. So, again on the front page, there was a bit of some fiery moment when Treasury CS, that is John Mbadi, appeared before the Transport Committee, and it was so dramatic, so to say. Still on the front page, we won't be cowed. Varsity staff vow to go on with their pay strike. They were tear gas yesterday when they were trying to petition Parliament on the same case, testing the waters. What it will take to impeach Gachagua? Yes, this is what's going to be our discussion. So what will it take to impeach the Deputy President? Okay, lastly, on the front page of The Standard, DP's troubles pile up as leaders aim for spoils. That is on The Standard. DP's troubles piles as leaders aim for spoils. We have got Tana River Senator Johnson Mugatana, beg your pardon, wants the Senate to censure the Deputy President, even as a senior Mount Kenya leaders position themselves should the looming impeachment idea materialize and vacancies occur. Okay, he was here yesterday. Again, what it takes to impeach him. So let's look at the probe lineup as highlighted here by The Standard. One, we have Kithure Kindiki, who is now the CS for Interior, Kimani Ichung'wah. We have Anne Waiguru, Ndindi Nyoro, Cecily Mbarire, Gladys Wanga, Mwangi Kiunjuri. That's the list, as alluded by The Standard. So let me start it where I should. Mugambi. So we are here once again. We were here years ago when we saw then the Deputy President, now the President, William Ruto, had his not so good moments with his boss then, President Uhuru Kenyatta. What an interesting time to live in Kenya.
It's not reinventing the wheel, is it?
I bet.
The more things change, the more they remain the same. So,
you're right.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I just don't think there is anything new. I think the relationship between the President and the Deputy President is broken, beyond repair.
So fast?
Yeah, I mean, divorce comes as soon as the marriage is consummated. I mean, divorce probabilities.
Yeah.
So we call that in law, in the Marriage Act, or the judges, when they are trying to give you a divorce, they say the marriage is irretrievably broken.
Yes.
And I think it's at that point right now.
So this is where we are. It is not something new again. But the question I should be asking you, then, what kind of politics is this? I mean, for how long will Kenyans be treated to this back and forth between bosses and their deputies?
It works. It happens everywhere. I think it's given more limelight right now because it's happening at the national level. Look at the counties. Most deputies have no roles. I mean, they have different with their bosses. Even don't go any further. Look at the schools. Look at the primary schools. Look at the secondary schools. There are differences, major differences between the principals or headmasters and their deputies. Look at the directorates. So it's everywhere. Only that this is happening at the national level. I don't think it's so unique. And the earlier that is sorted out, the better, so that the country moves forward.
The earlier sorted, the better. But Wakili, Article 147 and 134 is quite open. Perhaps that's why the deputies are not so comfortable with their bosses, all bosses taking advantage, whichever way you may look at it.
Well, the institution of presidency has developed in this country from the experience that we've had over time, since the independent constitution until now. It has been tested and tested and retested. One of the things that we've done when promulgating our contemporary constitution was that we reacted to events of the institution of the executive in presidency. And one of the things we did is we looked at the behavior of partly President Jomo Kenyatta, but largely President Moi, because he's the one who informed a lot of the reforms by the way he conducted the public affairs. And we reacted to the fact that we formed a union of inseverability between president and the deputy at the whim and the behest of the president. And therefore, the institution of executive, meaning presidency in this country, has two people. One is the president and one is the deputy president. The president has roles that we've given him in the constitution, partly as head of state and military head and also head of government. In that fusion of institutions, we therefore have created a person with a lot of powers that is symbolic to the country. It is one that we've also protected because at the time of the pendency of the presidency and when the president is serving, that's the time that you cannot take him to court for criminal offenses. So we've insulated the institution of presidency and some privileges have been put there. But it comes with responsibilities. The president has responsibilities, but one of the responsibilities is to come into office with a deputy president. The union is as good as the union of marriage. What we did in the Marriage Act is that once you're married, we do not want you, whether you like it or not, to divorce immediately. We want you to test the union of marriage. So you have to stay there for some time. It's called a term limit. So the limitation of time that has been put there, if you want to divorce again, you don't just go and say, I don't like the person. No, you give reasons. There's adultery, there is cruelty, there are many reasons that you give. For purpose of the court to allow. By the way, you can go and petition for divorce and the court refuses. Because you've not pigeonholed your reasons within the confines of the law. So we've made it difficult for somebody to walk out of marriage. And deliberately because we are protecting the institution of marriage. And that's us as Kenyans. Of course, borrowed largely from the British common law and all. Now, when we come to presidents, when we created that union, the thinking was that because we've seen how a deputy president has been abused as an institution by the presidency itself, we reacted to that. And we form a sort of an inseverable environment where we make it difficult for the deputy president to be removed. So the reasons for removing a deputy president are the same reasons for removing the president. And impeachment is one of the reasons, for many reasons, including capacity and when he's basically not abided by his responsibility under the Constitution. One of it, which is what I think Danson Mukatana was saying yesterday, Mheshimiwa, he is supposed to promote the diversity of Kenyans and promote cohesion. So if the deputy president every morning wakes up and talks about Mlima, every day, persistently, consistently, incessantly, continuously, every day, at a wake up, at a breath, at everything. When I have put him there personally, other personal Kenyans, for purposes of uniting us, for purposes of enhancing cohesion in the Constitution, but more importantly, for purpose of being a president of the whole Republic of Kenya. Not a region, not a people. Not even 2 people or 3. So we have biases. When you're put in an office, you have biases. You don't stop being a human being. No, you have biases. But we have elevated you with responsibilities. By the time you agree to assume into that office, you come with responsibilities. So if you are a judge of the High Court, you are biased, you lost a relative from an accident, and a driver comes before you and you have to judge whether he's guilty or not, that bias, he has to step aside. You have to put it aside. And ask him, did he or did he not commit the crime, and so on and so forth. It's not just because you lost a relative from a road accident, everybody who comes there, a matatu driver, you keep on jailing. It doesn't work like that. So when you come to the institution of presidents, we have elevated that institution. You stop being a normal human being. You become a public officer. And that is what we said when we were debating the BBI case, and that's what the Supreme Court pronounced itself. You do not become a normal human being. That's why Uhuru Kenyatta could not anchor reforms from the popular initiative, because he's not a normal human Kenyan. He's not. He's a special Kenyan.
Based on his
elevation, stature as president. It's an institution we protect, but it comes with responsibilities. So we'll give you certain responsibilities, but take away the privileges, some of the privileges. They may even be annoying to you. But yes, you are there.
So apart from this, you know, the whole issue of the deputy president talking about Mlima each and every morning, which you are saying that, and other people actually, that is not the right way to go. Could there be underlying currents that perhaps is forming this kind of sense of...
So let me look at it from the legal perspective, then the political perspective, and then try and fuse those two. Because legal political becomes very complicated in its own way. Now, there is a principle called principle of collective responsibility. This means that at a fusion of an institution such as the executive and presidency, you must work together by law, by demand of law and demand of the Constitution, and of course Kenyans. If then there is no collective responsibility, it's a breach of the same principle of collective responsibility. In the instance of collective responsibility, what is the role of the deputy president? It is to deputize the president. Meaning it is what the president comes first and then the second president. The second in line will be the president. So the Constitution mentions the president and then deputizes to the deputy president. So the deputy president must conform in matters and the confines of collective responsibility to what the president does. He must defend the institution and his president continuously, and not therefore cause friction with that institution by public odium, by public pronouncements that undermine the very institution, because it is an institution that has its rules. So in the principle of collective responsibility, it is the deputy president who has a higher calling and a higher duty to conform to the institution, because it is what the president does, and whatever he does, it is deemed to be a deputization on his from his part. So whatever the president does, the deputy president is in constant deputization of the president. It is not that the president then wakes up and says, now I'm deputizing to you. It is a constant.
That sounds like there is like co-presidency.
So yes, it's co-presidency to the extent that one is below the other. So when that happens, is whatever they do, they must be seen to be doing together. It doesn't matter how he packages himself. That is the demand of the law. And now to the politics. When therefore you walk away from your responsibilities, I don't feel he represents me. I don't feel honestly that the deputy president represents me.
Why?
I feel he represents other people. Because he doesn't talk about me. He doesn't talk about my economy. He doesn't talk about my working environment. He doesn't talk about my welfare. He doesn't talk about the good of the country. He talks about certain people, a certain fiefdom of this country, and the good of those people. That's what he does. So he is not my president. In terms of legitimacy, he is losing the legitimacy to represent Kenyans as a deputy president. He is de facto and by de jure, by law, the deputy president. But by legitimacy, he is losing it because he constantly confuses himself by speaking for certain people, not for all Kenyans. He should talk about the about devolution and why money is not going. He should about the schools. He should about there are many problems in this country which he should be addressing, and that would be appealing. Now to the politics. He is the maker of the problem. He is the maker of the problem. Because you see, if you look at his constant conduct throughout the path he's traveled when he became deputy president, he's been very aggressive and abrasive. From the fact that this country is a shareholding country. No, it is not. It is not. Democracy is such that we must compete. In fact, we must compete so that we are biased for someone. We compete on account of biases. So if I'm biased for Raila Odinga and I'm biased for William Ruto, that's okay, it's my constitutional right. Okay. But after that, you must unite as a country. So you don't come and tell me, because I was biased for Raila Odinga, I am not part of the country because of the administration and benefits, because I'm not a shareholder. No, it's not true. And that's not the constitution either.
I mean,
and he's not promoting cohesion. When
you look at, you've talked about, the political bit of it and the legal bit of it, and you also talked about the legitimacy.
Yes.
So then, what options does the president have at this particular point? Because we've not heard the president talk about his beef with his deputy. The only thing that you can hear every day is the deputy president now lamenting that he's been frustrated, including his family, what he said last week. I want us to take a look at that. But then most importantly, would it really take to impeach the deputy president? If so, what next until 2027? Let's take a break. We'll be right back. I have Paul Mugambi, political analyst, and George Keithy on set. Stay with us.
What are you trying to tell the whole class? You better not have taken my pictures when I was trying to put on those boxes. I will slaughter you.
You want us to believe you carried fresh meat in a kawaro?
You can believe what you want, my friend. If only you could study with such image.
Stop interfering. We are not interested in your unnecessary details. Actually, we are not even interested on whose house you're going to destroy.
Julia, you are very lucky. I don't want to spoil my nails because next time, where?
It was a wagon, his dad's wagon, the one that he drives on Thursdays.
How did you even know he drives a wagon on Thursdays? Women and poking their noses. So,
Friday night again.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Welcome back. So, in the history of this nation, we've never seen a situation where a deputy president or vice president, as per the old constitution, was moved from office. If this happened, it would be one of a kind. But let's come back and test now. How, first of all, before we get into the process, Paul, you can imagine that scenario. A deputy president of Kenya is impeached for the first time. Paint for me a picture.
It's not the first time, really. The vice president, under the old constitution, a few of them were President Moi used to wake up in the morning, a lunch hour by roadside, and say, he's appointed so and so as the vice president, because back then, under the independence constitution, the vice president was appointed by the president. He was an appointee, just like the ministers. Look, the likes of Karanja, likes of Moi-Kibaki, all of them were fired. So it was not the first time. Suffice to say that under the new constitution...
But that was a direct from president to his bosses, but this one is going through a legislative process, I mean an impeachment.
Yes, because of that experience, like Council here said, we decided to safeguard the office of the Deputy President under the new Constitution 2010. And you can see that the President right now has no powers to remove his deputy once they appoint them as their running mates, during the election. But Parliament, being the representatives of the people, has the powers to remove the Deputy President from the office by way of impeachment. Also, he can remove himself. Yeah, the Deputy President can decide, okay, fine, since you are going to remove me and you have the numbers, let me resign, which is safer, actually. If today, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua waited until his removal is orchestrated by Parliament successfully, so he cannot hold any other public office. It's done. His goose is cooked. That's the end of it. Yeah. But if, and I'm using the one if, this motion of impeachment finds its way to the National Assembly, for your information, it must be introduced in the National Assembly, not the Senate. It must be introduced in the National Assembly. It must be passed in the National Assembly by 2/3 majority. First of all, whoever is collecting the signatures must get at least a third of the members, about 117 members, for the motion to be admissible. And the Speaker of the National Assembly then, Moses Wetangula, is obliged by law, by the Constitution, to admit to the motion and purposely set a day for that debate, just purely that debate about the impeachment. And once you have the requisite numbers for the motion is debated. There are grounds for removal that now you have to debate. This process is quasi-political, quasi-legal. It's both political, it's legal. It's not necessary. It's not a legal process where you must you must be able to get to a certain threshold legally. It's political. So, and you can see from the Constitution the grounds for removal, and Article 150, some of them are, mentally incapacitated or abuse of office or, breach of the Constitution, those kind of things. I am debating within myself about now, especially the breach of the Constitution. I listened to what my colleague Kanzukidi said. It's actually not, I would use the word breach. It's actually a breach of the Constitution. As a state officer under Article 260 of the Constitution, it's a breach of the Constitution to talk about a certain region over and over again when you hold the state office of the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. I come from the Mount Kenya region myself, and I feel constrained because now the rest of the country would think that the Mount Kenya region, its inhabitants and residents are selfish people who only talk about themselves once they are sent to the high positions of leadership, such as the office of the Deputy President. I was watching the Deputy President in Coast some time ago, and he was telling the locals that, now me, I have to leave. I don't want to stay here because I don't belong here. I have to go back to the mountain. I was like, oh, wait. I thought this was the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya. And recently, when they were in Nyanza with the President, every time he rose to speak, he would say that, you'd tell the residents, receive greetings from the mountain. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. You don't do that. That's demeaning the office of
What do you think is the political
President.
endgame when he repeatedly talk of Sisi watu wa Mlima, Mount Kenya region, etc., 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 whether he is in location X in the country or Y? What is the political endgame?
I think he's misadvised, either by his advisors or by himself, because once he thinks that by doing that, you galvanize some support from the mountain, which as at now is not unanimous that he's the leader of the mountain. There's no unanimity that, you know, Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua is the kingpin of the Mount Kenya region. There are so many disagreements as to who is the leader of the mountain. And he thought by doing so, coupled with the apology, quote unquote, he gave to the former President Uhuru Kenyatta, that now you'll have almost negligible resistance in the mountain, and therefore you'd be able to show the mountain that he's the leader of the mountain from the east to the west, from Nyandarua, Nakuru, all the 10, 11 counties of them, all the way to Meru and Tharaka Nithi and Embu. So, but it has worked in the opposite, as it should be, because once, look at the former Deputy President, now the President of the Republic of Kenya, William Ruto. He never at one point carried himself as the leader of the Rift Valley. Even though we knew he came from a Signishu County, he was a member of parliament for Eldoret North for many years. So he carried himself as the Deputy President of Kenya. And to now try and turn that to be, now you are Deputy President of the mountain, that's absolutely ridiculous. You can as well go and vie for the chairman of Council of Elders there, and be, you know, now you are able to speak about the mountain. You can talk about, you know, as the chair of the Council of Elders here, and you wear those hats which the elders wear. You show yourself as the leader of the mountain. But as the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, that's a breach of the Constitution. And I think the members of Parliament have a lot of meat, quote unquote, have a lot of strength there, you know, and at Koten, you know, one of the things you cannot do is to try and discriminate any part of this country, you know, principles and values of governance. He's breached almost every single one of those. You try and make sense of the whole drama. It doesn't make sense to me. Look at it right now. The president is out of the country. Yes. Instead of talking about, under the Constitution, he is the acting president. That's what the Constitution, that's how we framed our Constitution. Once the president is out, the deputy president assumes the roles of the president. Okay. He's busy traversing the mountain and talking about certain things. You know, that's not acceptable.
I don't know what you think about this, Wakili, as well. As perhaps you can also add your voice into that so that we expand the conversation. I like what you've said, quoting different articles in the Constitution. But then the most important thing that all of you have said is that the deputy president stops being a normal citizen by virtue of his office, all right? By virtue of his office. But then now, that motion, the essential motion is already, you know, filed and signed, received by the Senate Speaker. So what next? Of course, senators will have to look at it. It has to go to the National Assembly again. And
not really. That's essential motion. Okay. It's not an impeachment motion. It's of no consequence.
I stand guided. I stand guided. But then now, when you look at the numbers, Azimio and Kenya Kwanza, do you think this might even see the light of day? Perhaps that's why the deputy president is comfortable wherever he is, I think. I don't know.
Now, let me put it this way. First, just to add on to what my good friend has said here, is that Rigathi is suffering from two issues. One is he did not come to the deputy presidency as a matter of right. Because in politics, you either bring money for the campaign or you bring numbers, or both. He didn't have the numbers from Mount Kenya, so we suspect he had the money. Or maybe he didn't. If he didn't, it's even worse. But I hope he did. So let's assume he did. When you bring the money and the president's, the campaign determines, what else do you have to offer? Nothing. And therefore you have to go back and find a clientele base upon which you can pitch your politics on. So you work from the reverse. So that you have the clientele base upon which to propel you into deputy presidency, you didn't have. And therefore when you go back and start now reorganizing, you become a tribal chieftain. Now given this country is ethnocentric politically, and therefore you come to the table with your own ethnic clientele base. Raila has had it his way many times on account of or the ethnic background that he commands, almost emotionally. And so did Rift Valley vote for the presidency overwhelmingly, and so on and so forth. So you need then to have your first fissure in politics, because we've talked of biases. You need to have a biased clientele base for you. And then you do the add-ons from the other tribes that are not sponsoring presidency or deputy presidency. He didn't have that. So he has to retreat and galvanize Mount Kenya for purposes of then, stemming some insulation, political insulation of sorts, and two, charting his political path, but most importantly also bringing to the table something for someone. Because he can be president as we speak now, because he's not an organic political figure for the whole country. In fact, a very divisive political figure, if you ask me. So then, fast forward will be that he needs to go back to the mountain, bring numbers. But when he goes back there, he retreats, he leaves a gap.
But is he getting the numbers through this? No, he can't. He isn't, because he's late in the day. That's why he should have started with the numbers then, but he didn't have numbers. Most importantly is when he retreats and leaves a gap, Raila Odinga walks in very fast. All right? Because there's a gap of some representation of sorts. Political, probably space that has been created by his own conduct. And I think it's the make of his problems. And if you look at the opposite of the behavior, if he did not conduct himself in the manner he did, then he would be a humble, amiable deputy president who is inclined to this good man he keeps on saying he is. The other bit also is then in parliament. Does he have numbers in parliament? Obviously, we saw the other day part of the numbers that ran away from him in Mlima. We have not seen him close to any command of numbers in parliament. And therefore, any motion that is politically instigated in parliament, he will have no say, because he doesn't have his way there. And that is because of the fact that he has been this one-man show inclined to Mlima politics alone. And you see the problems that he's getting himself into. So any politically instigated motion in parliament, he is going to lose, because he may not galvanize numbers, and there's nothing he can offer to this politician in a sense for now. And there's such a time that space is created, or he creates that space, where then he probably will say who will have the certificate to run as MP in parliament and this and that, which he doesn't have that voice. He doesn't even speak for UDA. He's not the spokesperson for UDA. So basically he's all over nowhere, if you ask me, except the office, which he goes to. But then if you ask me what is my opinion of the staffing of the office of the deputy president, I'll tell you, I don't expect a Pokot there. I don't expect an Oromo there. I don't expect our day there. I expect his own people there, of the manner in which he talks. And I can tell you, it's a threat to himself, not to us. He must, and let me add this, the deputy president must learn to fear Kenyans. There's no leadership without fear. Fear of the law and fear of the reprimand of the people. That's how you keep on cajoling and seducing the people your way. And you don't talk at people continuously and persistently. Your conduct in public, and we say it even in the Constitution, your conduct in public must be befitting of the office that you hold. Mugabe, what do you have to say before?
Essential motion that you've just alluded to. First, I feel there are two things. I think the legislators are trying to test waters, just to answer your question on numbers, to see whether this can work, it cannot work, and if it can work, how. Although I strongly feel that it's not the right approach. I mean, censure attracts it's not punitive. Just express your displeasure. That's it. That's
like
about
a warning
it.
shot.
Yeah?
That's like a warning shot.
Yeah, like it's just let's reprimand this fellow. That's it. You say, we're displeased with the conduct of the deputy president, and he needs to change. Or that's about it. So it amounts to nothing. So I strongly feel Senator Denson Mongatana, who is an experienced legislator, having worked in the National Assembly and the Senate right now, he's been in politics for a while, he's an advocate of the High Court of Kenya. He should immediately withdraw that motion if they intend to impeach the deputy president. It waters down the impending or looming impeachment, to say so. It should wait until that motion is introduced in the National Assembly, the impeachment motion introduced in the National Assembly, supported by the requisite numbers. As of now, I think he could be angry, and maybe rightly so, and as other Kenyans are, maybe other senators, but I don't think it's the right time to introduce that motion.
You know, an interesting bit of this thing is that we've not seen the president even talk about it.
He shouldn't.
Unlike last time, you know, the political intonations would point at a direction where the president then, Uhuru Kenyatta, would, you know, give some parables and some proverbs here and there. But here, the president is quite mum, completely.
I really hope he's not drawn into this. We've had the deputy president talk about it in Dhika, for instance, when he was saying that he spoke to the president about it before he left the country. The president told him that would be stupid to bring that kind of a motion. That's what he said. But I really hope the president is not drawn into this, because that's not his bit. Let the MPs, let the members of parliament do what they're supposed to do. One of the roles of the National Assembly, members of the National Assembly, is to, under Chapter 8 of the Constitution, is to impeach the president or the deputy president, and the Senate to participate in the impeachment process. In fact, the Senate is even supposed to set up a committee to investigate the allegations against the deputy president. So these are cardinal responsibilities. Let the members of parliament do it, do their jobs. Let the president not bring himself into this. If tomorrow the National Assembly passes the motion, and the other day, after 7 days, the motion is also passed in the Senate, and the certificate of impeachment is issued by the Senate to the president, then he has another 14 days to appoint another deputy president and send the name to the National Assembly for approval.
Okay, what are the possibilities?
First, let me put it this way. My good friend says this may not be the best process. I think it is the best. I'll tell you why. You know, a wound starts with a pimple, then grows and becomes a wound. If you don't treat it, it becomes even cancerous sometimes. Look at the Gen Z's protests. They didn't start in its full blast. They started like a joke. 14-year-old, what can they do? Suddenly, a whole cabinet was removed. And it had reached a situation where the presidency itself was threatened. You know, having participated in politics substantially, I would say, you ordinarily introduce a topic for discussion. All right? And allow it to pick a life of its own.
Does it have to be controversial?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to market it as controversial, obviously, for it to be debated, because we are debating it now because it's been introduced. Now, when you do that, you then watch. You watch the person, the victim, as he lesses around what to do. As you watch him, you build on the case. Keep on building the case. There are things we don't know. Because the Auditor General may have information that we're not discussing here, and many other things of breaches that we don't know. But that is actually comes out usually. Until such a time when the decibels are so high that there's no turning back. That is where you need to reach. As we speak right now, you will be attracting sympathy to the Deputy President in certain areas, certain quarters of a victim if you do not package your case properly. We have not reached as a situation where you can accuse him, where you fuse the legal and the politics. He must smell. He must be so dirty, such as that there is no other way of repackaging him. And that's where you need to reach. And I think that's where you need to start. That's one. And number two, and most importantly, is that the Deputy President will fight back. And I can tell you he'll fight back in the tones of a victim. It is too early in the day when you look at the next election to allow him maneuvers. You must get him when it is right, and timing is everything in politics. So you can't remove him now, move him when it is the right time. Either you remove him early enough so that you can rebuild in the process and go back to the clientele, whether you lose in the circumstances or become disgruntled or feel disenfranchised, or in the alternative is that you get him the last minute so that there's no other way he can maneuver. Remember the political alliances that the Deputy President can build to sabotage the President or compete with the current regime. is narrowed because the most unavailable will have been Raila Amolo Odinga and his ODM opposition. That's not available, but there's the Kalonzo Musyoka access. That's available probably for a union of sorts with him if he so wishes. And therefore, you need then to be able to put measures of scale in terms of political benefits vis-a-vis the plus and minuses in terms of the move. But I think to test waters on what then would be the implication, you don't move directly to impeachment. Test it with him, what he can do, what he brings on the table. And the reaction back home, whether he has gotten the influence now, he'll play victim and whatever. Then when you say...
Is this a case of a divide and rule? Perhaps. I don't know from which quarters, but is it a attack of divide and rule, Bugambi?
In what sense?
Again, I say this with, I don't know where it's coming from. But when you look at the way the way the Deputy President talks about Mount Kenya, Watu and other people, let me put it, the people he works with, his supporters, other legislators, are also talking about the same thing. They don't talk about it anywhere else. And you also see a part of Kenya Kwanza administration, actually is a Kenya Kwanza administration that is split. One supporting the other side, one is supporting this other side.
What do you mean? He has 4 MPs, three MPs, 3 members of the National Assembly and 1 senator. That cannot be the entire Kenya Kwanza leadership or UDA or anything to do with that. I mean, you saw even from within the mountain, 48 MPs. 48 from now, the Central Kenya, former Central Kenya province. You saw about 48 of them really say no to him and say now, since you are not involved in public administration and governance issues, development issues, okay, fine. Let's have someone else who will talk on our behalf on matters development. And you've seen now the Interior Cabinet Secretary, Kithure Kindiki, moving around the region, opening the roads that was stalled. And that's something that I saw KBC yesterday, covering him in Nyandarua, in Kinangop and those other areas when he was inspecting development and opening those roads. The other day was in Kiambu County. I think the Deputy President does not carry the hopes and aspirations of the region. If he did, then you'd have all the elected leaders, coalesce around him. They don't. They're trying to coalesce around someone else. He has only 4 legislators. 4 members of the National Assembly, 1 senator. It cannot be now it's Mount Kenya speaking. It is him speaking, plus 1 or 2 other elected leaders.
The numbers, probably we can talk about 3 or 4 people, legislators, but we're talking about him. Because of these 4 people, their voice is way heard.
Actually, we're talking about him. Because I would expect a senator of Kiambu, Dangwa, for instance, who talks about Kiambu, I would expect him to speak about Kiambu. Why? Because he's elected to speak about Kiambu.
Right.
I would expect the Kadhoni Mushomba to talk about her people. I would expect the member for Embakasi Central to talk about Embakasi Central. Because by law, those members are supposed to talk about the people who have elected them. But nationally, when we now escalate this conversation nationally, the state officer here, who is a national figure, is the Deputy President under Article 260 of the Constitution. So he's the one who is supposed to talk about national issues. And the reason as to why we're talking about him here is because he's been unable to do that. He's been so divisive a character that you cannot imagine him holding the office of the Deputy President for 5 years.
Okay.
It's untenable.
Let's assume that the 3 of us are sitting with him somewhere with his advisors, and how can he salvage the situation?
He can salvage. There's nothing to salvage.
I think it's like I told you, it's irretrievably broken. He cannot salvage this situation.
Gentlemen, I am a National fan.
Yes.
I know what happened to us 10 seconds to go. Over the weekend.
That's Arsenal and they play good football.
I know what happened to us
he
10
doesn't play any football. He doesn't play any good politics. That comparison is elevating his stature. You don't elevate his stature because he doesn't want to elevate it himself.
So he cannot salvage.
No, he can't, and he shouldn't.
I don't think he can salvage himself.
Let me tell you, behavior and conduct are related. If you conduct yourself in a certain way now and tomorrow and the other day, I'll call you abrasive, I will call you, loose talker, I will call you whatever you... Because you did it once, and then twice, and then 3 times. So there's political packaging out of his own behavior, talk, and conduct. There's no other political packaging we can take from him. We are consuming what he's given us. I'm consuming what he's given me. So there's no other way as Kenyans we can repackage him as you know, a person with logic.
I believe all is not lost.
Well, you know what? Let me tell you something.
Depending on the circumstances.
Let me tell you something. With Rigathi or not, people will say they are cabbages, people will go to work, and people will work in this country. We move because we are resilient as Kenyans, not because Rigathi exists. No, not because a deputy president is or is not. No, even if there's no deputy president for the next 2 years, we will still move on as Kenyans. You'll come to work, I'll go to work, the matatu driver will drive his car. So what is it that he influences on us? What is it that we're debating about him? What is it? Suffice it to say, therefore, he is important when he is important to us. Otherwise, if he's not important and politics in the manner he is not important. Tell me his importance to you. Tell me his importance to any other person. So he becomes important when then there's something you offer. And let me tell you, the Mount Kenya MPs are not going to him because he offers nothing. Okay. First, he doesn't offer money. Number two, because they don't have money right now. But where are the goodies? Where are the goodies with the members of parliament from Mount Kenya? You want a road built, it is national government. You want, because you want to be re-elected. You want a dispensary, you want this. You get it from government. You don't get it from Rigathi. He does not go there to the government. Wait, he doesn't go to government to say, we don't have this road, coffee farmers are suffering, and therefore build this road. He doesn't do that. He politics for himself every day.
3 years is a long time, and you all know this. You have played politics.
So it's 2 years.
I get it.
So it's 1 day. That's why there's a censure motion.
And that is why I'm also trying to imagine what if he repackages himself.
He can't. Let me tell you why he can't. Why you know you don't. You can't be this thief. Then suddenly you want to tell me now I'm not a thief and therefore I repackage myself as a model of a reformist of thieves. No.
Okay.
You've marketed yourself in a certain way. Look,
what do you think?
The constant of the mind is that it is the first in time. So you introduce yourself as this beast, you continue with that narrative in my mind. You know, it is not one mind, it's not two minds. It's called a national psyche. The entire collective thinking of Kenyans about him. Let him start for presidency.
I think I cannot agree more. Suffice to say that he has had his chances. You can say that over the last 2 years, he's not been told that whatever rhetoric is propagating is good for him or the country. I am certain that the office of the deputy president has sufficient advisors, qualified advisors. I know some of them who work there. I know for sure they've tried to tell him as much, but I'm not sure whether he listens, because if he does, then we should have seen him changing. I think time is of the essence, and I don't think he has enough time left. I think time is up for him.
You know, one unfortunate thing is that time is also up for us. I don't know. You've just finished it up.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, this is a conversation I'm so sure we are going to have for the longest time to come, because we also experienced the same in the last regime, and here we are again talking about it. Interesting to be a Kenyan. Thank you so much, Wakili. George Kithi joining us. He's also, but the Wakili means advocate of the High Court. Asante sana. And yes, Paul Mugambi, thank you so much for joining us for the first time.
Asante sana.
A pleasure having you. All right, so let's take a break. And we come back, we are crossing over to Zinga. Rashid Mamkondo will be having that discussion over there. Let's take a break. We'll be right back with more. Stay with us.
Thank you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
I never heard the music so sweet. I repeat.
Well, go on, me brethren, big things are going. Remember, each and every Monday we have to shell down the place with nothing but the best of smooth way the vibes in your favorite station. You know these things, man.
Alafu kila Tuesday, kata simu tupo side, giving you Kenyan music from the 254.
And of course, you can spice up your Wednesday by enjoying blazing hot hip-hop and R&B jams.
We don't got no label. She say she want bottles.
Vibes and vibes as we go all across Africa, Kenya, Nigeria, Ghana, all the way to Tanzania to give you nothing but the best on Afro Thursday. Make sure you make a date with us each and every single Friday. With me, DJ_Liza Diva.
DJ Colda.
And me, Wanjiko. This is Club One Extra.
Unanifanya nisikie kunyongwa. Hadija ai, mani especially ukisonga.
Peter Njeru Ndwega was born on 4th January 1954 in Manyata and attended Kibogo Primary School before moving to Kamama Secondary School and then Siakago High School. He attended Cooperative University College for a diploma in business administration in 2014. He had a professional career before going into elective politics in 1992. From 1975 to 1976, he worked for Coca-Cola as an assistant accountant. In 1977, he joined American Insurance Company as a sales representative and was promoted to unit manager in 1979. In 1984, he became the company's agency manager in charge of the Mount Kenya region. The political collaboration between Moi-Kibaki and Ndwega that culminated in his appointment to the cabinet started in 1991 in the formative days of the Democratic Party, which Kibaki founded. He easily retained his seat in 1997 via the same party. Ndwega was committed to Kibaki's cause and did a lot of heavy lifting to rally the 4 constituencies in his region, Siakago and Gashoka in Beere, and Manyata and Ronyenjes in Embu, to support Kibaki when he ran for president in 1992. Ndwega was one of the legislators who rode to Parliament on a DP ticket in the same year, being elected as the Member of Parliament for Ronyenjes constituency. When DP joined with other opposition parties to form the National Rainbow Coalition NAC in preparation for the 2002 general election, Ndwega moved with Kibaki. It was after he had won his seat by a comfortable margin on a NAC ticket that Kibaki appointed him to the cabinet. He was appointed Minister for Cooperative Development and Marketing in the first of President Moi-Kibaki's 2 terms. The Member of Parliament for Manyata constituency was also the only cabinet minister at the time from the then Embu and Beere districts. One of Ndwega's achievements during his time at the helm of the Ministry of Cooperative Development and Marketing was to have Kenyan coffee listed as one of the country's exports to the United States of America. This was facilitated by the African Growth Opportunity Agreement, AGOA. In the new agreement, Kenyan coffee would be fully processed, packaged and sold to the US under a Kenyan brand name. Before then, local coffee was auctioned at the Nairobi Coffee Exchange in its raw form. Buyers would then process and resell it under their brand names at higher prices. He also oversaw the writing off of debts so as to salvage cash-strapped cooperative societies. In August 2003, the minister facilitated the injection of 600 million shillings into KCC to cushion dairy farmers from low milk prices during the high milk supply season. The KCC revival was no doubt one of the success stories of Kibaki's administration. In 2007, Ndwiga contested the Manyata parliamentary seat with all the advantages of incumbency. By that time, he had maintained his grip on the seat for 15 years, but in an unexpected turn of events, Ndwiga was floored in the elections by Emilio Kathuri, a businessman. The loss saw him exit Kibaki's cabinet, and the cooperative's docket was handed to Joseph Nyaga in the 2008 Grand Coalition government that had Kibaki as president and Raila as prime minister. On 10th April 2012, President Kibaki appointed him chairman of the Export Promotion Council for a term of 3 years. In 2014, President Uhuru Kenyatta appointed Ndwiga chairman of Tanathi Water Services Board, and in 2017, Ndwiga made a political comeback when he was elected senator for Embu County. He then chaired the Senate Agriculture Committee. In 2022, he joined the UDA and lost in the party primaries. Jackie Wambiru, the Cabinet.
Kwetu ajue ndo baby kaona mtu anasema mahali pia wanaume wanapenda baada ya saa 2 majira ya Afrika Mashariki. Kabla kuvuka upande wa pili, mwenzangu Rashid atakapokuwa yuko ange, basi itakuwa tunasonga pale, na naona tu ni
Wiki jana, mtazamaji, mahakama kuu chini ya majaji watatu ilitoa uamuzi kuwa mpango wa maendeleo ya maeneo bunge, yani hazina ya maeneo bunge almaarufu NGCDF, si halali. Hata hivyo, wabunge wamepewa miaka 2 kukamilisha miradi iliyosalia katika maeneo bunge yao kabla ya NGCDF kusitishwa ifikapo tarehe 30 Juni mwaka wa 2026. Mahakama kuu, mtazamaji, ilitoa uamuzi huo baada ya kuangazia masuala 9 yaliyokuwa na ombi lilowasilishwa na mwanaharakati Wanjiru Gikonyo baada ya sheria zamani ya CDF kutangaza kuwa ni kinyume cha sheria. Mtazamaji, katika uamuzi huo, mahakama iliamua kwamba wabunge wa bunge la kitaifa hawana mamlaka yoyote kutekeleza miradi ya maendeleo, na kwamba jukumu lao kikamilifu linabaki kuwa uwakilishi wa wananchi, utunzi wa sheria na usimamizi. Licha ya hayo, mtazamaji, bunge la kitaifa limeapa kupinga uamuzi huo. Je, ni nini athari za NGCDF kutupiliwa mbali? Kwa mengi zaidi, mtazamaji, ndani ya studio kutusaidia kuchambua swala hili ninao wageni studioni. Yuko ndugu yangu hapa CP Douglas Muhati ambaye ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kiuchumi, na vile vile pia niko naye upande mwingine ndugu John Anyabicha ambaye vile vile pia ni mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kiuchumi. Usiende mbali mtazamaji. Labda nikianza nawe ndugu Douglas. Kauli ya mahakama ya kutupilia mbali NG-CDF, na ni kesi ambayo imekuwa mahakamani kwa muda wa zaidi ya miaka 12. Inaashiria nini?
Naam, uamuzi wa mahakama kutupilia mbali sheria ya NG-CDF inaashiria kwamba ukiangalia moja ya sababu ambazo mahakama ilitumia kutupilia mbali hiyo sheria ni kwamba haikufuata process ama mkondo mzuri wa kuitengeneza ndio ikawa sheria. Moja wapo ya hiyo sababu ni kwamba mahakama inasema kwamba bunge la taifa halikuhusisha bunge la seneti katika kutengeneza hiyo sheria, na kwamba hiyo sheria ya NG-CDF inaguza maeneo ambazo zinashikiliwa na county governments. That's hiyo ni serikali za
county
za ugatuzi. So unapata kwamba wakati sheria ambayo inatengenezwa haijafuatilia mkondo mzuri, hata kama ina malengo mazuri, basi sheria yote iko na ubaya kidogo. Ni kama kusema kama wale ambao tunaenda kanisani, mtoto akiiba sadaka, akiiba pesa, anapeleka sadaka kanisani. Kupeleka sadaka kanisani ni sawa, lakini vile pesa ambazo ametoa wapi? Ameiba. So hata kama amepeleka sadaka, lakini the process ya kupeleka sadaka ndio yenye koti ambayo inasema kama bunge lingetumia njia mzuri ya kutengeneza hiyo sheria, basi sheria yenyewe ingekuwa sawa. Na pia inajaribu, koti pia inasema ya kwamba kwa wabunge kusimamia fedha za CDF ni kama inaleta utatanishi katika kazi zao. Serikali iko na mikono mitatu, iko na bunge, iko na mahakama na iko na executive. So wanasema kwamba wabunge wanafanya kazi ya executive ambayo sio jukumu lao kama wabunge. Jukumu lao vile umesema pale ni kutunga sheria, ni kuangalia vile pesa zinatumika na kazi zingine, lakini sio kutekeleza miradi ya serikali. Ndio maana koti imesema wanaelewa kwamba hiyo sheria yote, na kwamba hata nikikumbusha kwamba 2022 the same watu wenyewe wanaharakati wale walipeleka tena kesi kotini kupinga sheria ya NG-CDF 2013. Na mahakama ya juu zaidi, Supreme Court, ilitupilia mbali hiyo sheria ya NG-CDF 2013. Now sasa from 2013 ndio tena bunge wakatengeneza sheria ya NG-CDF 2015. Na ndio hiyo tena imepelekwa kotini on the same grounds.
Tatizo liko wapi, ndugu John Nyabicha, kuhusiana na masuala haya? Kwa sababu wengi wanakiri kwamba hazina ya maendeleo bunge CDF imesaidia maeneo bunge mengi sana. Leo hii kuna shule za umma zina tiles, hata walikuwa hawajui tiles ni nini ba.
Rashid na wasikilizaji, hamjambo. Shukran sana kwa fursa hii. Nikupe tu historia fupi kuhusu fund hii ya CDF. CDF ilianzishwa mwaka 2003 chini ya uongozi wa aliyekuwa Rais Moi-Kibaki. Ukiangalia malengo ya CDF wakati ule ilikuwa nini? Ilikuwa katika ile kufanya equitable distribution of resources, ama ugavi sawa wa rasilimali. Kwa sababu gani? Wakati ule hatukuwa na ugatuzi. Wakati ule tulikuwa tuna maeneo bunge 210. Kwa hivyo wakati ule Kibaki amekuja na mradi wa free primary education, kulikuwa na sehemu fulani ambazo tunaweza sema zimetengwa. Ndio maana tukakuja na CDF ya kuhakikisha kwamba kuna ugavi sawa wa rasilimali. Lengo la CDF ilikuwa kuhakikisha kwamba zile sehemu ambazo labda haziwezi kufikiwa na maendeleo ya kitaifa, wabunge, kila mbunge na eneo lake anajua mahali maendeleo yanahitajika zaidi. Ndio maana wakapatiwa ile fund. Sasa tulipokuwa na the new constitution ya 2010, ikakuwa sasa tumeingia katika devolution, tukakuwa na ugatuzi. Sasa ikakuwa yale malengo ya CDF na malengo ya devolution yakakuwa kuna ile inaitwa overlapping of roles. Ndio maana wanaharakati wakaenda katika mahakama kupinga kwamba sasa tuna devolution. Serikali imebadilika. tuko na devolution, tuko na national government, zile sehemu ambazo tunasema ni vulnerable areas sasa zinaweza kuangaliwa kimaendeleo na hizi gatuzi. Kwa hivyo hatuhitaji tena CDF. Ndio maana wakaenda katika mahakama. CDF Act ya 2003 ikatupiliwa mbali. Wabunge walipoona vile wakakuja na NGCDF Act ya 2015 ambayo imefanyiwa marekebisho 2022 na 2023 after the Supreme Court imetupilia mbali the act ya 2003. Wakati kesi hii imepelekwa mahakamani, wale judges wamesema kwamba sasa tuko na devolution, tuache wabunge wafanye kazi zao. Kazi ya mbunge ni oversight, kazi ya mbunge ni legislation, kazi ya mbunge ni representation. Hatutaki tena kumfanya aanza kutekeleza maendeleo. Hiyo ni overlapping, alafu pia ni kuharibu resources. Kwa hivyo kwa maoni yangu tu ni kwamba ni jambo zuri kwamba tutoe maneno ya CDF kutoka kwa wabunge ili waweze kuconcentrate katika ile kazi yao.
Labda nikirudi kwako ndugu Douglas, hisi hatua hii ya mahakama mara mbili kuweza kutupilia mbali hazina hii ya CDF wakisema kwamba iko kinyume cha sheria, wewe unaona ni sawa kivyako, kimaoni yako kama Mkenya?
Kama Mkenya mimi naona ni sawa.
Kivipi na imeleta maendeleo mashinani?
Naam, NGCDF imeleta maendeleo. Hata mimi najua shule yangu ile nilisomea ya primary ilijengewa classes kadhaa, tumeona pit latrines zimejengwa pale. Ndivyo tunakubali kwamba CDF imekuja na maendeleo, lakini jinsi nilivyosema, kama sheria haijatengenezwa kulingana na vile ile process ambayo inahitajika,
ndio
hiyo yote hata kama inaleta maendeleo si vyema. Na kwa wabunge kujihusisha katika maendeleo, na sahi tuko na serikali za gatuzi,
ndio
hatuoni kwamba ni kila mtu anajaribu kufanya kile ambacho serikali ya kaunti inafaa kufanya. Kwa maana kama mbunge ana kazi yake ni oversight, na yeye ndio ako in charge ya CDF, so ana oversight aje ile pesa ambayo yeye mwenyewe anatumia? Anajiuliza maswali yeye mwenyewe ama anafaa kuuliza nani? Kwa maana kama ni yeye, hiyo CDF iko chini yake na yeye anafaa kuprovide oversight ya hiyo CDF. Hatuoni kuna kama ni kujiuliza wewe mwenyewe maswali, unatumia pesa alafu unajiuliza maswali umetumia vipi pesa? Utapataje ukweli? Inafaa kama ni maendeleo inafanyika ifanyike na county, serikali za gatuzi. Mbunge yeye afanye kazi yake ya oversight, aulize maswali vile pesa zinavyotumika. Hata kama CDF inaleta maendeleo na hatuwezi kataa, imejenga hata paka na police stations na zile sekta za uchumi ambazo hazija weko katika serikali za gatuzi. Ni vizuri, tunakubali imefanya maendeleo. Lakini kwa sababu ya wabunge kufanya kazi yao ambao wamewekewa na katiba, basi wacha wasishughulikie mambo ya CDF. Waache ipake kwa serikali ya gatuzi.
Naam, sauti yake Douglas Muhati, mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kiuchumi. Nirudi kwako ndugu John Nyabicha, pia vile pia mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kiuchumi. Kuna wale ambao wanasema kwamba wabunge wametumia kigezo cha hii hazina kuweza kufanya kampeni kile inapofika baada ya miaka 5 kurudi mamlakani. Wengine wanasema kwamba imetumika vibaya katika swala zima la ufisadi, hususan katika kupeana tenders. Unapata kwamba kampuni inaitwa Rashid Andora, kumbe hata ni kampuni imesajiliwa na huyu mbunge, kwa hiyo pesa zinarudi kwake. Kauli yako ni ipi?
Kwanza alivyosema mwenzangu hapa, shida kubwa ambayo tuko nao ni ufisadi. Ndio ukiangalia tangu kuanzishwa kwa CDF kumekuwa na maendeleo mengi. Wengi wetu tumesoma na basari zile za CDF. Kuna shule ambazo zimejengwa kwa sababu ya CDF. Kuna miradi mingi kabisa ambayo CDF imeweza kufanikisha. Kwa hivyo hatuwezi kusema kwamba CDF ni mbaya, ila matumizi yake hayajakuwa mazuri. Imetumika ni kama shimo fulani hivi la ufisadi. Ukiangalia mgao wa CDF kila financial year wabunge wanapata zaidi ya 100 million kila mbunge. Hii pesa ukiweka pamoja alafu upatie national government, ingine iende kwa county government, inaweza kufanya yale maendeleo ambayo wabunge wanafanya. Nirudi kwa mwenzangu alivyosema kwamba kazi ya mbunge ni oversight. Kwa Wakenya ambao wanatusikiza, bunge la kitaifa lina nguvu mingi sana, kwa sababu wao ndio wanafanya budgeting, wao ndio wanafanya ile disbursement ya pesa, na wao pia ndio wanafaa kufanya oversight kama pesa imetumika vibaya. Sasa swali ni je, wao wamepata zaidi ya 100 million. Wanapotumia zile pesa, ni nani ataweza kuwauliza kama zimetumika vizuri, kama zimetumika vibaya? Where is the oversight for CDF? Kwa hivyo maoni yangu tu ni kwamba, kwa sababu especially umeona na hii new funding model, watu wameanza kulia sana kwamba education system imeanza kuharibika. Zile basari kuna ufisadi mwingi sana, kwa sababu wabunge wameanza kutumia CDF kama campaign tool, na kama hukumpigia kura hauwezi kupata ile CDF ama maendeleo kwa sehemu yenu hamwezi kupata. So ndio maana kwangu mimi kivyangu ni kwamba ile CDF itolewe ili wabunge wapate enough time ya kufanya oversight, wapate enough time ya kufanya legislation.
Wako very reluctant,
Wako very reluctant kwa sababu kwa wabunge kile ni kitega uchumi kile. Ile saizi ukiondoa CDF, wabunge wengi wataresign. Watasema sasa sisi hatutaki kazi. Kwa sababu kile ni kitega uchumi. That is where they make their money from. Vile ulivyosema wameandikisha kampuni nyingi. Wanazipatia tenda na vitu kama hizo. Zile pesa wanaziweka kwenye mfuko. Sijui nimewahi ku experience one case where unapata wabunge na ile CDF wametengeneza blank checks. So unapata kama ni shule fulani, wewe kama mwalimu mkuu unapatiwa check, unasema wanafunzi waliolipiwa ni 100, ila wanafunzi wale wanaweza kuonekana ni wanafunzi 5. Hizi pesa zaidi mwalimu mkuu na mbunge wanakula zile pesa. Kwa hivyo wao they are very reluctant kuachilia, kwa sababu ni kitega uchumi kwao. Na ndio maana tunasema tuitoe ili 2027 wale watakaopigania ubunge wajue hakuna pesa. Sasa mimi nikitaka kuwa mbunge, nina ari ya kwenda kumtumikia mwananchi, sio kwenda kutengeneza ama kula pesa ya CDF. Naam.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, endapo ndo kwa sasa unafungua runinga yako ya KBC Channel 1, kipindi ni Good Morning Kenya kupitia upande ule wa studio da, na vile vile pia kipindi mtazamaji ni Zinga kupitia KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Kenya. Tunazungumzia kuhusiana na mchakato mzima wa mahakama kuu chini ya jopo la majaji watatu kuweza kupigilia msumari kwenye jeneza la NG-CDF, ambapo ifikapo tarehe 30 Juni mwaka wa 2026 ni kwamba basi NG-CDF itakuwa hamna tena. Lakini kumbuka, wabunge wameapa kukata rufaa juu ya uamuzi wa mahakama. Je, wewe msikilizaji ambao unatusikiliza, unatutazama, kauli yako ni ipi kuhusiana na mambo haya? Labda nikirudi kwako ndugu Douglas Muhati, uamuzi wa mahakama kuu una athari gani kwa Wakenya na kwa wananchi juu ya CDF? Una athari gani? Wakenya wanaifeel vipi?
Naam, najua Wakenya tumekasirika kwa maana tunaona,
lakini wewe umesema umefurahi, kwa hiyo
mimi kivyangu nafurahia kwa maana sasa wabunge watapata nafasi ya kufanya kazi yao. Lakini kwa Wakenya wengi, hata mimi nikikwemo, ningekuwa mdogo ile siku ningekasirika, maana CDF imetusaidia kulipa school fees, imetusaidia kujenga hizo mashule na kuleta miradi ya karibu kwa wananchi. Lakini sasa vile nilivyosema tu, tutaendelea kufanya kitu mbaya ama kufuata mwelekeo mbaya kwa sababu athari zake ni mzuri ama
kuna Bwana Douglas, kuna mambo mangapi Kenya yanafanywa kinyume cha sheria na yanaendelea?
Sasa huwezi suluhisha mambo yote kwa pamoja. Suluhisha jambo moja kwa wakati wake, jambo moja kwa wakati wake. Sasa tukimalizana CDF, tutarudi kwa yale ingine ambayo inafanywa, ambayo kwa njia ambayo haifuati mkondo wa sheria. Naam.
Ngoja nikuulize swali. Mahakama ilisema wakati ule ile ada tunayotozwa ya nyumba ni haramu. Inaendelea ama iendelee?
Naam, sasa acha nikuje hapo kwa sababu pia wabunge wetu wametuangusha kidogo. Wakati mahakama ilitupilia mbali ile ada ya nyumba housing levy, wabunge wakaenda wakatengeneza sheria nyingine tofauti kwa sababu walikuwa hiyo kwanza walikuwa wamepitisha kwa finance bill. Na sasa hawa wabunge wenyewe wakati mahakama ilitupilia CDF 2013 Act wakati ule I think 2016 hapo, wangekuwa wazuri ama wangekuwa watu wenye wanafikiria vizuri, zile recommendation ambazo mahakama ilipeana kwa wakati walikuwa natupilia mbali hiyo CDF Act 2013, wangezitilia mkazo wafanye hiyo marekebisho kwa CDF Act 2015. Kwa maana hiyo CDF Act 2013 ilienda hadi Supreme Court. High Court mahakama kuu ilitupilia mbali, mahakama ya rufaa ikatupilia mbali, Supreme Court ikatupilia mbali. Haiwezi kuwa na makosa High Court itupilia mbali act ya sheria, Court of Appeal kuja tupilia mbali hiyo sheria, Supreme Court tupilia mbali hiyo sheria, tena ukuje ufanye the same sheria ama kufanya tu marekebisho kidogo ambayo mahakama haikuwa imeguzia, ukuje utengeneze sheria mpya, tena utarajie kwamba mahakama itafanya nini, itakubaliana na hiyo sheria. Kwa maana zile grounds ambazo High Court imetupilia mbali hii NGCDF 2015 si tofauti sana na zile za 2013. Ni sawa kabisa. Ni same. So hiyo inakuambia kwamba maybe wabunge wao walikuwa tuna haraka ya kupitisha sheria ya NGCDF 2015, hawakutaka kuzingatia yale maoni ambayo mahakama ilikuwa imetoa wakati walikuwa wanatupilia mbali sheria 2013. Ndio maana tunasema wabunge wangekuwa wanafanya kazi yao ya oversight, kutengeneza sheria na kuwakilisha wananchi. Hata kama wangekuwa wanatengeneza hiyo sheria, wangeitengeneza kulingana na mapendekezo ambayo mahakama ilipeana. Lakini sasa ile mapendekezo ambayo mahakama ilipeana vile walikuwa wanatupilia mbali hiyo sheria 2013, wabunge hawakutilia maanani. Ndio maana hii 2015 tena ya NGCDF 2015 itatupiliwa mbali tena hata wakienda koti ya rufaa.
Najua kwamba nyinyi sio mawakili, lakini tutasaidiana katika kulichanganua hili. Mahakama imetoa uamuzi kwamba hii ni unconstitutional, yani si halali hii hazina NGCDF. Basi Nyabicha, mbona wawape miaka 2 sijua akamilishe nini? Kama kitu ni kibasi kikwamishwe hapo, mbona wawapatie na miaka 2 na bajeti yao bado? Kumaanisha wamewapatia dirisha la bajeti 2 zinazokuja wapatiwe allocations.
Kwanza ni jibu swali uliouliza mbeleni la athari ya kutupilia mbali CDF. Sidhani kwamba itakuwa na athari kubwa, kwa sababu sasa nilipokupatia historia mwanzo nilikuambia kwamba CDF ililetwa ili kusaidia zile vulnerable areas, kuhakikisha kwamba kuna ugavi sawa wa rasilimali. Kwa hivyo saizi tuko na devolution, tuko na gatuzi. So ni rahisi sana zile kazi ambazo zinafanywa na CDF kwa hivi sasa zinaweza kufanywa na county governments. Kwa hivyo kwa mwananchi wa kawaida hakutakuwa na athari kubwa sana, kwa sababu sasa tumeona kuna presidential bursary katika national government, na pale kwa gatuzi pia tuko na bursaries. Kwa hivyo bado kazi itaweza kuendelea na serikali za county na serikali ya kitaifa. Nimeona Douglas anajaribu sana kutetea CDF, lakini niseme hivi kwamba CDF Act na NGCDF Act ni kama saratani, it's like cancer. Hii hata uifanyie chemotherapy, uifanyie anything, you cannot cure it. Kwa sababu gani? Wakati wale majaji walikuwa wanatoa maamuzi yao, walisema kwamba kitu ya kwanza CDF inaguza sana zile gatuzi, na kwa hivyo lazima muhusishe seneti. Hilo ni rahisi kufanya. Wanaweza rudi watengeneze sheria, wahakikishe kwamba wamefanya ile kuhusisha seneti. That is very easy. Lakini kigezo cha pili walitumia kutupilia CDF mbali, walisema kwamba si kazi ya MPs, si kazi yao kabisa kufanya maendeleo katika constituencies. So niambie wewe, ukienda kutengeneza sheria nyingine, utafanya nini ndio uifanye ikuwe kazi yako. Hivyo itabidi bunge wajiongeza jukumu la 4 la kusema wao ndio watakuwa wanafanya maendeleo. Kwa hivyo NGCDF ni kama cancer. It has no cure. Hata wakikata rufaa, hata wakienda Court of Appeal, hata wakienda Supreme Court, yale makosa CDF ilikuwa nayo ile 2015 ni yale makosa ambayo tuko nao kwa hivi sasa. Kwa hivyo hili halina dawa. Wabunge wajifunze kufanya ile representation yao, wajifunze kufanya oversight na kuwakilisha wananchi.
Kwa hiyo Nyabicha, unachosema ni kwamba bunge kwa sasa hata likapendekeza njia gani kuziba pengo la CDF haitasaidia kitu.
Labda tuende tufanye ile amendment ya constitution iseme sasa wabunge apart from legislation, apart from representation, pia tunataka mkwe mnafanya maendeleo katika county. Ukiangalia our constitution ya 2010 it is very clear, especially matumizi ya rasilimali ya wananchi. Lazima kukuwe na oversight. That's why kuna squeeze tunasema public participation. Umeona mahakama sana sana inatilia maanani public participation. Kwa hivyo utapitishaje NGCDF ambayo haina na haiwezi kuwa na public participation? MPs wakipatiwa fund ya Quran, who will oversight them? Ukiangalia constitution vile imefanya kazi yake, imehakikisha kwamba kuna oversight kwa kila level. Ukiangalia katika serikali za gatuzi kuna MCAs ambao wamepatiwa kazi ya oversight, ndio maana umeona wanafanya impeachment na vitu kama hizo. Kuna maswali bungeni. Ukikuja katika serikali kuu kuna Senate na kuna Parliament. Hiyo ni kazi yao ni kufanya oversight. Kwa hivyo kama mimi ni mtu wa kufanya oversight, sina tena mamlaka ya kufanya kazi kwa sababu mimi sina mtu wa kuni oversight. Kwa hivyo NGCDF is very unconstitutional na itaendelea kuwa hivyo.
Labda nirudi kwako CPA Douglas Muhati. Kuna swala hapa linajitokeza. Unajua, tuzungumzie sasa katika swala la kiuchumi. Kuna wanakandarasi wengi sana wa humu nchini ambao wengine labda ni wanawake, wengine vile pia ni vijana, wamekuwa kifaidika kwa njia moja ama nyingine juu ya miradi ya maendeleo. Kumbuka pia kuna wafanyikazi katika afisi za NGCDF. Je, labda unaweza kutuelezea athari za kiuchumi kwa watu kama hawa?
Naam, kuna athari za kiuchumi kwa wale wafanyabiashara ambao wanapewa kandarasi na hizo shirika za CDF katika maeneo bunge zetu. Hiyo ni ukweli, na pia vile nimesema tu wananchi wengine tutaumia sababu hiyo CDF haitakuwa. Na sometimes tunasema kama ni mtu mmoja anafanya maendeleo, wacha tu huyo mtu mmoja afanye nini? Afanye maendeleo. Wacha tusitengeneze tena mtu mwingine afanye the same hiyo maendeleo yenye huyu mwingine anafanya. So kama serikali kuu inafanya maendeleo ya national government, wacha ikuwe serikali kuu inafanya maendeleo ya national government. Na kama ni maendeleo ya county government, wacha serikali ya gatuzi ifanye nini? Maendeleo yake. Kwamba mtu asiingilie kazi ya mwingine. Lakini hapo wakati wabunge wanaanza kufanya hiyo kazi yao, wanaingilia kati ya kazi ya serikali ya gatuzi na serikali kuu. Na koti wakati ilikuwa inatupilia mbali hiyo kesi ilisema inawapatia miaka 2 kukamilisha miradi na kila kitu. Hiyo ni kuhakikisha kwamba wale wanakandarasi ambao walikuwa wamepewa kandarasi za kufanya maendeleo yoyote yale wamalize kazi yao na walipe pesa zao kabla hiyo CDF haijatolewa. Na pia tunajua kwamba kulikuwa na commitments ama nitasema kwa Kiswahili, commitments ambazo wajibikaji ambao zile kamati za eneo bunge za CDF ilikuwa imetengeneza na mashirika mbalimbali kwamba tutatekeleza hii siku fulani, tutatekeleza hii mwaka ujao. Koti ilipatia zile eneo bunge nafasi ya kutimiza zile commitments ama yale zile contracts walikuwa wameagree na mashirika mbalimbali. So that ingekuwa kwamba koti inasimamisha CDF leo, hao wengine wangekuwa affected. Maana maybe wengine hawangelipa pesa zao, wengine wangetimiza malengo ambayo kandarasi ambayo walikuwa wamepewa na mambo mengine. So Kwa katika hali ya uchumi wa Kenya tutaumia kidogo, maana sasa zile tulikuwa tumetegemea, unajua, alafu pia inafaa tuelewe kwamba hizi kandarasi ndio tunasema zinapewa kwa njia iliyo halali, lakini kuna vile wabunge ama kuna vile ule mtu ambaye anapeana hiyo kandarasi ana influence ule mtu ambaye anapea contract. So unapata most of hizo kampuni ambazo fanya zile kandarasi ama zina supply zile vitu kwa NGCDF, unapata ni marafiki wa wabunge. So ni Wakenya kama kawaida, tuwezi kata, ni Wakenya kama kawaida, na wakati hiyo CDF inatolewa tutaumia sote, maana hatuta, kama sasa alikuwa ni baba yako anafanya hiyo kazi, sasa unajua kitega uchumi yake imeenda. So Wakenya kama kawaida, ka uchumi itatudhuru kidogo.
Nyabicho, on the same note, sijui kauli yako ni ipi kulingana na athari ya kiuchumi, hususan katika unaambiwa kwamba 30% huwa inafaa ipatiwe kandarasi vijana, lakini sasa hii ikiondolewa katika siku za usoni itakuwa vipi? Kwa sababu kwa njia moja ama nyingine pia ilikuwa imebuni nafasi za ajira.
Wazungu wanasema two wrongs don't make a right. Kwa hivyo kama kuna makosa irekebishwe. Of course kutakuwa na athari zile, ukiangalia vile NGCDF inakuwa run, kuna board, kuna on the national level kuna NGCDF board, pale kuna employees, kuna watu wameajiriwa pale, watakosa ajira. Ukienda pale kwa constituency pale mashinani kuna pia board, na kuna watu wengi sana. I think kwa kila constituency kuna zaidi ya watu 30 ambao wameajiriwa kwa ile board ya NGCDF mashinani. Kwa hivyo wale watu wataweza kukosa ajira. Ila tunasema kwamba kama ni kibaya ni kibaya, turekebishe, wale watu watafutiwe ajira labda kwenye gatuzi, maisha iendelee, kwa sababu kuna uvujaji sana wa pesa katika maeneo bunge na ile NGCDF. Kwa hivyo tukiweza kufunga ule mwanya wa uvujaji wa pesa, wale waajiriwa wapelekwe labda kwenye county, wengine wapelekwe katika national government, itaweza kuwa sawa, ndio tuhakikishe kwamba ile rasilimali ya wananchi wa Kenya imetumika vilivyo. Uliniuliza swali kwamba kwa nini mahakama imeruhusu kwamba kama tumesema kuna makosa hapa, kwa nini mahakama imeruhusu makosa iendelee for the next 2 years? Unajua mahakama kwanza huwa wanafanya ile inaitwa voting. Kwa hivyo kuna jaji mmoja alisema kwamba if we are saying this is unconstitutional, kama tumesema hiki kitu ni kibaya, tukikatae leo, kuna jaji alisema vile. Ila wengine wawili wakasema la hasha, tulikuwa na watu wako na commitments, kuna miradi ambao imeanzishwa tayari, tuko in the middle of the financial year, disbursement tayari zimeshafanywa, pesa imeshatolewa. Kwa hivyo badala kurudisha ile pesa, na tukubaliana kwamba CDF imefanya kazi nzuri. Ukienda katika kuna wakati ule wa Peter Kenneth, ukiangalia Gatanga wakati ule aliweza kufanya maendeleo. Kwa hivyo pia ni utumizi mbaya wa pesa na wabunge wengine. Kwa hivyo CDF imeweza kufanya kazi nzuri katika maeneo bunge mengine. Kwa hivyo wakasema give it 2 years, hakikisha kwamba zile miradi ambazo zinaweza kufaidi wananchi zikamilishwe, tuweze kufunga CDF. Pia ni wakati mwafaka wabunge wamepatiwa ili kukata rufaa. Naam.
Bila shaka mtazamaji, ni dakika 40 zimekatika baada ya saa 2. Endapo ndo kwa sasa unafungua redio yako, hii ni KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya. Na endapo ndo kwa sasa umeamka ukaamua kuichagua runinga ya KBC Channel 1, mpango mzima ni Good Morning Kenya, na vile vile pia mpango mzima ni Zinga. Tunazungumzia kuhusiana na athari na mchakato mzima baada ya jopo la majaji watatu wa mahakama kuu kusema kwamba hakuna uhalali wa hazina ya CDF. Kumbuka ni hazina ambayo kama ulivyoweza kusikia ilibuniwa mnamo mwaka wa 2003 na hayati Rais Moi-Kibaki, na jukumu lake kubwa lilikuwa ni kuweza kusaidia maeneo ambayo kidogo yameachwa nyuma kimaendeleo. Lakini wengi wanahisi kwamba ujio wa ugatuzi katika katiba ya mwaka wa 2010 kidogo huenda ikasambaratisha. Kauli yako ni ipi mtazamaji? Maoni yako ni yapi mtazamaji? Ukiwa na swali lolote usikose kutuuliza. Kumbuka ukurasa wetu wa Facebook ni KBC Radio Taifa, sauti ya Mkenya, na hivi punde tutakuwa tunashika simu 2-3. Nikirudi kwako CPA Douglas Muhati. Kuna majadiliano gani ambayo yanaendelea ndani ya bunge kuhusu mustakabali wa ufadhili wa maendeleo katika maeneo bunge ya NG-CDF? Jana, nafikiri ni juzi, nilimsikia mbunge wa Kiharu Mheshimiwa Ndindi Nyoro ambaye vile vile pia ni mwenyekiti wa bajeti katika kamati ya bunge, na eneo bunge lake la Kiharu ni miongoni mwa maeneo bunge ambaye amefanya vizuri sana katika masuala ya CDF. Je, unahisi wabunge wana nguvu kama alivyosema bunge ni kubwa? Unahisi kuna through pass hapa inaweza ikakwamua uamuzi wa mahakama?
Serikali iko na mikono mitatu, vile nilisema, mahakama, bunge na executive. Na kazi ya wabunge ni kutengeneza sheria, na hao wabunge wanajua kwamba hiyo CDF japo inaleta maendeleo, lakini pia inawafaidi wao, kwa kizungu tunasema kupata mileage. Kwa sababu wakifanya maendeleo mzuri ama wakileta maendeleo mengi katika eneo bunge lao, basi watu wa eneo bunge lao watawapenda na watawapigia kura. Ndipo saa hii sijaona kama kuna mbunge anapinga hiyo sheria ya CDF. Hakuna hata mmoja anapinga hiyo sheria ya CDF. Kwa maana wanajua kile ambacho wanapata pale. Katika Biblia, sijui nisema kwa kizungu, Biblia inasema where your treasure is, there your heart is. So hao wabunge wanajua treasure yao ama ile utamu wao uko katika hiyo fund ya CDF. Ndipo wanafanya kila jambo kutetea hiyo CDF iendelee kuwa pale. Ndipo hata kama wanafanya maendeleo, lakini wanajua benefits zingine ambazo wanafanya nini wanapata. Ndipo huwezi yapata mbunge hata mmoja anapinga hiyo sheria ya NG-CDF. Na mimi pia nataka niulize hivi, na nakubaliana na Jaji Mkuu Martha Koome ambaye alisema ukiangalia kwa serikali ya gatuzi kuna bajeti ya basari. Ukiangalia CDF kuna bajeti ya basari. Ukiangalia huko kwa serikali kuu kuna presidential budget. Sasa ya basari, presidential budget ya basari.
Wanazungumzia kuhusu speaker ama Jaji Mkuu?
Jaji Mkuu. Jaji Mkuu Martha Koome. Na pia kuna bajeti ya basari huko kwa serikali kuu, kwa ofisi ya rais. Sasa kama hawa watu wote ama hizi shirika zote zinapeana basari kwa ule mwanafunzi mmoja, mbona tusiweke zile pesa zote mahali pamoja, alafu tufanye elimu ikuwe bure nchini Kenya? Kwa maana huyu anataka kusaidia hawa kama basari, huyu anataka kusaidia hawa kama basari, huyu anataka kusaidia hawa kama basari. Na unapata wakati hata zile basari zinapeanwa, sometimes hazipewi kwa wale ambao hawajiwezi. Unapata ule mtu ambaye anajiweza ndiye anapewa basari. Ule mtu ambaye hajiwezi sababu hana ushawishi ama hajui mtu fulani katika ofisi ya kupeana basari, hawapati. Ndiposa ni maoni tu ya Wakenya kama mimi pia nasema, kama ni basari tuweke tu budgetary allocation kwa serikali kuu kwamba hii ni budget ya basari, na tuseme ama na tuseme masomo yote katika Kenya kuanzia shule ya chekechea, shule ya msingi na shule ya sekondari ni bure. Hivyo tutakuwa tumefaidi wanafunzi wote kwa pamoja, kuliko kufaidi ule mwanafunzi ambayo anajiweza na kuacha ule ambaye hajiwezi. Naam.
Nyabicha, nikirudi kwako, kuna wale ambao wanapendekeza kwamba fedha za NG-CDF zielekezwe katika masomo au shule badala ya bunge kupewa. Ni nini maoni yako kuhusu swala hili?
Kwanza nijibu swali lako, uliuliza parliament wako na nguvu sana. Ukauliza kwamba wanaweza kupata through pass ile ambao kama wakienda kwa court of appeal, kuna vile wanaweza kuwa na ushawishi kuhakikisha kwamba ile CDF imepita. Sheria, it's not black and white. Sheria inategemea interpretation. Kwa hivyo kuna uwezekano pia wale wanasheria wa parliament wataangalia zile loopholes za sheria, waangalie ni nini tunaweza fanya kuhakikisha kwamba court of appeal imetusikiliza. Ukiangalia housing levy ile ambayo ilikuwa inaitwa unconstitutional, kuna vile wabunge walikuja wakaketi na wakisha kwamba wamepitisha sheria ya kuendelea kutoza Wakenya ile housing levy. Kwa hivyo NGCDF haijafa kabisa. Wabunge wako na njia wanaweza kufanya kuhakikisha kwamba hata kama haitakuwa inaitwa NGCDF, I'm very sure lazima watatafuta njia ya
inaweza itwa hata Adani
inaweza nasema wewe si inaweza kuitwa chochote kile, ila what they want ni ile pesa, ule mgao, ile fund. So wakiona kwamba ile jina CDF ndio inaleta shida, wanaweza kuita chochote, but hakikisha kwamba every year kuna budgetary allocation ya mbunge binafsi ya Quran, ya kuhakikisha kwamba alivyosema mwenzangu kuna mileage ile. Ukienda nyumbani unaweza kutengenezea watu latrines, unaweza kuwatengenezea classrooms, na unaweza tafutia vitabu. Nije kwa swali lako lilouliza kwamba mbona hizi pesa ziweko pamoja tupate elimu ya free, ama hii pesa iweze kutumwa direct kwa shule, ili tutoe huyu broker anaitwa MP. Tuhakikishe kwamba kama ni barabara, national government inatafuta contractor na inamtuma kwa constituency fulani. Ukiangalia katika bunge la 9 na la 10 wakati Moi-Kibaki alikuwa president, tulikuwa na very robust debates parliament. Kwa nini? Yule mbunge alikuwa anakuja, anatetea eneo bunge lake, anahakikisha kwamba kuna budgetary allocation, anahakikisha barabara za kwake zimetengenezwa. Kwa hivyo tunaweza rudi pale na we keep talking about oversight na representation. But wewe kama Rashid, do you feel uko represented vizuri? Umewakilishwa vizuri? Maoni yako yanasikizwa wakati mbunge anaenda parliament? Anapoongea, do you feel anakuongelelea wewe ama anaongelelea shida zake? Kwa hivyo we are not very big on representation. Tunafaa kuwakilishwa properly. Wabunge watusikize vizuri, wafanye kazi. I can tell you, wabunge wangekuwa wanafanya kazi yao ya representation vizuri, hawezi pata muda kabisa wa kwenda kufanya maendeleo. Hawezi pata muda wa kurun CDF. Kwa hivi sasa hawafanyi kazi yao, hawafanyi representation vizuri, hawafanyi oversight yao vizuri, hawafanyi utunzi wa sheria vizuri. Ni sheria gani ulisikia imetungwa na inasaidia mwananchi? The last time you heard of a bill yenye mbunge ameleta, what you hear ni sheria ya kufanya impeachment. Hiyo ndio unasikia kila siku, lakini umesikia mbunge ameleta sheria ya kusaidia mwananchi? Haujasikia. Haujasikia sheria imeletwa ya kusema kwamba vijana wapate ajira, as long as umemaliza shule upate ajira, hata kama ni ya kupata 15,000, 20,000 kinua mgongo hadi wakati utakapopata kazi ile uliosomea. Haujaona sheria kama hizo. Kwa hivyo wabunge wangekuwa wanafanya kazi zao, hatungekuwa na muda wa kurun CDF. Kwa hivyo serikali iweza kuweka mipango kuhakikisha kwamba we remove the CDF. Pesa kama ni shule inahitaji vitabu vitumwe direct to the schools. Kama hospitali zinahitaji madawa itumwe. By the way, kitambo tulikuwa ukienda hospitali ya serikali ulikuwa unapata madawa zote zimepigwa rubber stamp ya government of Kenya. Sasa leo zimetolewa. Kwa sababu gani? Tunataka zikifika pale hospitali tunazichukua na tunazipeleka kwa private chemists ama pharmacies. So to me, ile major problem hata CDF, major problem ni ufisadi.
Mtazamaji, dakika 10 tu zimesalia tuweze kutamatisha kipindi, na naona kuna jumbe mbalimbali, na nitakuwa nakupeleka upande wa pili ambapo mwenzangu Dora Manya atakuwa anatupatia simu 2 tu 3. Kuna mmoja hapa anaitwa Benjamin Nyaboro, anasema hazina ya CDF haijatimiza wajibu wake hata chembe, hususan miundo msingi. Mimi naipa 20% na wapata vyema, asante sana. Kevin Matoke anasema NGCDF imefanya kazi nzuri kama shule na watoto maskini. Mahakama kufanya hivyo ni kama haijatutendea haki. Mwingine hapa anasemaje? Jonathan Mouridhi Kanampyu, hata kama inasaidia tunafaa tufuate sheria. Mwingine hapa anaitwa Tony James Makari, anasema CDF ingebaki tu iwapo hayati Kibaki bado angekuwa hai na angekuwa rais. Tafadhali, CDF imewapa kiburi wa bunge, itolewe kabisa. Ndivyo anasema huyu. Alafu vile vile pia kuna ujumbe hapa nimeupata unasemaje ujumbe, wacha nusome. Anasema kaka hujambo, huu mpango ama huu hapa mchango wangu, CDF haikuwa wazo baya hata kidogo, ingawa baadhi ya wanasiasa wanaitumia kama chombo cha kampeni badala ya kutoa huduma zinazostahili kwa wananchi. Kinachohitajika ni muundo bora unaoimarisha uwajibikaji na kuhakikisha kuwa wapiga kura wanaelewa kuwa ni haki yao, sio fadhila. Baada ya hapo wabunge wanaweza kuendelea kutekeleza majukumu yao bungeni. Huyu ni Edward Mwasi, mshauri wa mkakati na uvumbuzi sekta ya vyombo vya habari CBIT. Dora, upande wako wa studio, tuchukue simu 2-3, naomba muvae hivi vidubasha tusikize wananchi wanasemaje.
Naam, shukran Rashid. Msikilizaji, kwa ufupi zaidi kauli zako, Radio Taifa. KBC.
Hello. Yes. Amkondo na madam.
Yes.
Huyu bila shaka nambato ya barara. Sasa swali langu nauliza. Wanapata pengine nimejaza form na CDF na hizo forms naambiwa nimepata 10,000, ikienda sasa pesa zinatumwa shule. Finally pesa ziendi shule. Ukijaribu kufuatilia upati. Jambo lingine, kuna pesa zidanywe za mbunge, governor na MCA, hizo pesa zote ziwekwe pamoja ziende shule.
Asante ndugu yangu. Radio Taifa KBC.
Hello Radio Taifa.
Yes.
Mimi tunaongea na Mariam kutoka Namanga.
Karibu.
Na swali langu ni kwamba ninauliza hao wageni, kweli mimi CDF nimeona kweli kwa mara mingi haijakuwa ikisaidia, na kwa mashule kweli haijakuwa ikisaidia, na popote pale haijakuwa ikisaidia. Na je, sasa swali langu ni kwamba mahali mahali lipo saa hizi wanaihamisha, na je mahali inaenda, mahali hiyo mradi wataiweka itasaidia mwananchi wa kawaida kweli?
Okay, asante sana Mwanazinga.
Hado tola manya.
Yes.
Manifestation mwana lea. Mimi swali langu kwa hao waheshimiwa ni hili. Ndio mmoja amesema vitabu vio vinatumwa moja kwa moja hadi kwa shule na madawa yao yanatumwa moja kwa moja hadi kwa hospitali. Okay, madawa yakituma kwa hospitali tena madaktari wanachukua wanatipia watu nyumbani kwao. Tunaambiwa madawa hakuna. Sasa hapo tutakuwa tumefanya suluhisho gani? Vitabu vinatumwa shuleni, alafu walimu wanasema vitabu vitutumwa tu vichache, havikutoshea. Sasa wazazi watafanya nini? Mbunge anapewa pesa CDF ilikuwa nasaidia, lakini hivi sasa mahakama inapinga, hatupati usaidizi wote. Afadhali wakati mbunge alikuwa anapewa, at least watoto wetu walikuwa wanafaidika. Shukrani.
Asante.
Tuachie hapo kwa sababu ya muda, labda wageni wangu simu 3 hizi kila mmoja yuko huru kuweza kujibu haya maswali kwa muda mfupi zaidi ili tumalize kipindi. Taanza na nani? Yeyote tu anaweza kuanza.
Naam, acha nianze kwanza. Huyu mwenye amepiga simu wa mwisho amesema ya kwamba wakati wabunge wana zile CDF zile eneo bunge zinapewa pesa zinafanya maendeleo, unapata maendeleo haifiki, kama ni madawa zifike hospitali, ama zikifika hospitali wa daktari wanaiba, ama kama ni vitabu zinaibiwa. Ndio maana tunasema kwamba ingekuwa ni jukumu la wabunge ku provide oversight kwa zile pesa vile zinatumika, bas wabunge ndio wangekuwa wanauliza hayo maswali katika bunge na wanapata majibu kutoka kwa zile shirika ambazo zimepewa jukumu la kutimiza hayo maendeleo. Lakini kwa sababu yale maendeleo yanafanywa na CDF ambao wabunge wenyewe wanasimamia, vile nilisema tu nikianza, hauwezi jiuliza maswali, mbona nimetumia hii pesa hivi? So unapata zile maswali ama vile pesa zinatumika vibaya katika eneo bunge, hatuwezi ona ya maswali katika bunge. Maana ni kama mbunge anajishtaki yeye mwenyewe, na huwezi enda bunge kujishtaki kusema kwamba hii pesa imetumika vibaya, ama hii pesa imetumika vibaya, ama huu mradi haujakamilika kwa sababu fulani, sababu moja ama sababu mbili. Ndio maana mimi nasisitiza ya kwamba CDF kama lazima ikue, basi iondolewe katika mikono ya wabunge, iwekwe katika maybe serikali ya gatuzi, ama irudishwe kwa national government. Lakini sasa ni sababu ni ya national government, irudishwe katika wizara husika ambazo zitajukumika kutimiza yale maendeleo ama majukumu ambayo CDF imekuwa ikifanya.
Naam, ndugu Nyabicha.
So ile issue ambayo tuko nayo, the big issue we are dealing with in Kenya is a software issue. Hivi sasa Rashid, tukikutoa hapa tukupatie kazi katika wizara fulani, unafikiria ni utaiba kiwango gani before 2027? So issue pia we have a software issue sisi kama wa Kenya. Tunapenda sana maneno ya njia za mkato, tunapenda ufisadi. Kwa hivyo ndio tunaweza kusema kwamba tutoe hii pesa tupatie governors kwa mfano. But how many governors saizi umesikia wako na kesi za utumizi mbaya wa pesa? Tunaweza kusema tutoe hii pesa tupeleke katika wizara husika. But ni kesi ngapi ambazo tumesikia kwamba kuna wizara nyingi ambazo pesa hazitumiki vizuri? Kwa hivyo kuna problem ambao kwanza lazima tushughulikie, na it is a software issue yetu kama sisi wa Kenya, ufisadi. So tukianza kwanza katika ile elimu ya msingi, tuanze kutrain watoto wetu kwamba maadili ni haya. Biblia inasema kwamba mfunze mtoto njia unaotaka kuwe nayo, akiwa mkubwa hataweza kuisahau. Kwa hivyo maadili kwanza katika jamii, watoto wakikuwa wakubwa wakuwe na maadili. Sisi wote tukikuwa na maadili, hakuna shida. MPs wa Kiran CDF wangekuwa na Iran 100% for the benefit ya mwananchi, haingekuwa na issue. Lakini ufisadi ndio inatusumbua. Ndio maoni yangu haya.
Naam, mtazamaji, ndivyo alivyomalizia ndugu John Nyabicha, mchanganuzi wa masuala ya kiuchumi. Anasema ufisadi ndio unaotusumbua. Na vile vile pia shukran sana CPA Douglas Mutai asubuhi leo kuja ndani ya studio kulichanganua hili. Tutalifuatilia tuone litaishia wapi. Mtazamaji, hivi sasa ni saa 3 bado dakika 2 saa za kanda ya Afrika Mashariki. Endelea kutizama runinga na enzi ya KBC Channel 1 na endelea kusikiliza KBC Radio Taifa Sauti ya Mkenya. Kama ninavyokuambia kila siku, mtazamaji yangu, huwa ni suti na tai na kuongea tu, lakini kazi kubwa kuna watu wanaifanya hapa huwaoni. Hawapiga picha wangu wako wengi hapa ndani. Kuna waelekezi wa redio, kuna waelekezi wa runinga, kuna mafundi mitambo wa redio, kuna mafundi mitambo wa sauti, nini na nini. Kwa hiyo tunawapatia kongole sana. Nyinyi ndio mnatufanya sisi tunajulikana. Asanteni sana kwa kazi yenu nzuri. Mtazamaji, sina la ziada. Waswahili siku zote wanasema nitakula na nani, sio kama nitakula nini. Jina langu naitwa Rashid Momkondo. Kwaherini.
Where are you, Dokon? What are you trying to tell the whole class? You better not have taken my pictures when I was trying to put on those boxes. I will slaughter you.
You want us to believe you carried fresh meat in a kawago?
You can believe what you want, my friend. If only you could study with such image.
Stop interfering. We are not interested in your unnecessary details. Actually, we are not even interested on whose house you're going to destroy this.
Julia, you are very lucky. I don't want to spoil my nails because next time, where?
It was a wagon. His dad's wagon. The one that he drives on Thursdays.
How did you even know he drives a wagon on Thursdays? Women and poking their noses.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
And welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. My name is Moi-Kibaki. Now we shift gears and talk matters health. You know, every Tuesday we are talking about health, and today we are going to take a deep dive into the matter of postpartum hemorrhage, which is a very big problem, and it contributes to the rate of maternal death, not only in Kenya, but also globally. And to help me in that conversation in studio, I'm joined by Dr. Kireki Omanwa, who is the president of Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
And also in studio, I'm joined by Naomi Motiso, who is a midwife at Thika Level 5 Hospital. Welcome.
Thank you.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me.
Before we even get into this conversation, let me start with you, Naomi. How is your day within the medical setting where you work? How is your day dealing with expectant mothers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. My day, of course, is a good day and a busy day.
Yes.
Yeah, it starts early in the morning, 7:30 a.m. until 4:30 in the evening. And of course, in the health sector, when you get to the hospital, the first thing that you do, you want to know the clients that you are dealing with. I'm not calling them patients, because expectant mothers are not patients, they are clients. So you have to know your clients, and also the ones who are coming, you start receiving them and admitting them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Doctor, how is your day? How is your day within when you're dealing especially with the expectant mothers?
My day can be quite unpredictable.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm on call, and we are on call as consultants. I teach at the University of Nairobi, and by virtue of me teaching at the University of Nairobi, I also work in Kenyatta National Hospital. That is where we teach our students and future doctors and future consultants. So when I am on call, the first thing we have to do is to go through labor ward, see what type of patients are there, if there are any complications, if there are patients who are potentially can complicate. So we need to make decisions whether they are delivering and what method of delivering they are going to use. And then after that, I go to do other things, but my phone is always on red alert all the time.
Yes.
Because I can be called back to labor ward at any time. Sometimes we need to come back even in the night to sort out any complications, or if our junior colleagues who are still training come up with an issue which they may not be able to deal with, then we have to come in and step in and help them to save these mothers' lives.
Yes. Let's now get into the discussion of postpartum hemorrhage, and I'll start with you, Daktari. When we mention postpartum hemorrhage, what are we talking about?
First of all, let me thank you very much for inviting us to the studio to come and talk about this very, very important topic. And it is one of the causes of what we call maternal mortality rates, or maternal mortality ratios, as it were. And what is maternal mortality ratio? Maternal mortality ratio is out of every 100,000 women who deliver, how many of them die for different reasons. And we have what we call the big five. And the big five, the first one is PPH, that is postpartum hemorrhage, which I'll dive into in a second. The second one is preeclampsia. The third one is sepsis, maternal sepsis. Then we have post-abortion complications. And then last of all, we have obstructed labor. You asked about PPH, or postpartum hemorrhage. Normally what happens, first of all, we are created in a beautiful way, ladies.
Yes.
Because when you look at the womb, which does not have a baby, is actually about the size of my hand.
fist.
About 120 grams.
Yeah.
Now, imagine that that is the place whereby a baby is going to grow. A baby who is on average, let's say 3 kilos. Sometimes there are 2 babies, and they have a placenta or placentas, and there is amniotic fluid as well. So that tiny organ, which was 120, 130 grams, grows to accommodate that baby, amniotic fluid, placenta, and so on. The placenta is the structure that basically connects the baby with the mother. And then there is a cord. And through that cord, nutrition passes to the baby, and oxygen passes through the baby, and some of the waste pass back through that cord and into the maternal circulation and out into the world, as it were. When a patient delivers, whether it is through natural means, that is vaginal delivery, or whether it is through a cesarean section, that baby, once the baby has come out, the placenta has come out, what happens is that automatically the uterus starts to contract. It reduces immediately. When you talk about postpartum hemorrhage, is that when a woman has delivered, that uterus does not contract the way it should. That is one of the reasons of postpartum hemorrhage, what we call atony, meaning that the uterus loses that ability to contract.
Before you continue, this applies to whether you have had cesarean section or vaginal delivery.
Correct.
Okay.
Because normally when a woman delivers vaginally, she loses about 100, 150, 200 milliliters of blood, which the body can accommodate very easily, unless she went to deliver with anemia, where the blood level is very low. Then even a little bit of loss can actually lead to postpartum hemorrhage. Now, when you're delivering through a cesarean section, the patient, because this is a major surgery, the patient may lose about 400, 500 milliliters of blood, which is again acceptable. The body will accommodate that. But when that loss of blood is more than about 1,000 milliliters through a cesarean section, and more than 500 milliliters or through natural delivery, vaginal delivery, then we are dealing with postpartum hemorrhage. That is excessive bleeding after delivery of the baby.
Now, let me come to you, Naomi.
Yes.
Of course, this is one of the things that lead or contribute to maternal death. But why is it a serious concern as we speak?
Thank you for that question. It is a serious concern because hemorrhage is bleeding. And when you lose blood, you become unstable hemodynamically. So, the way Dr. has explained,
yes,
it is you can die very fast. You imagine, even when you get a trauma, maybe you have been cut by something, you bleed, you lose a lot of blood. When you lose a lot of blood, so what happens? It even leads to organ dysfunction and failure of the organs. So that's why it is very serious, because it will lead to maternal mortality very fast. Yeah.
And it's one of the reasons that expectant or mothers who have just given birth utilize a lot of blood donation.
Yes, they utilize, because anytime you are in a facility where you are delivering women or women are giving birth, you must have blood. You cannot be in a facility without blood, because when they lose blood, they need that blood almost immediately. They are transfused, the blood, the volume is replaced because they have lost the blood.
Yes.
Yes.
Which also underscores the aspect of people donating blood, not when it's needed, but when they can, anytime they can.
Yes, that is what we are encouraging and what we are saying. And especially when a woman, or we say when your wife or your spouse is pregnant, it is very important. We are encouraging even men to donate blood. When your spouse is expectant, you are supposed to donate blood, voluntary. You don't need to be coerced to go and donate the blood, because there is nowhere where blood is bought. It's not like a fluid that you get from the stores, or from the cancer, or from anywhere. Blood comes from a human being. So you have to have enough stores of blood so that you can replace blood. This blood is needed almost immediately when you have lost it.
Yes.
Yes.
Daktari, What is the prevalence of PPH within the country? Compare it within the continent of Africa.
Thank you. You see, most of the time when you talk about numbers, sometimes it doesn't give the real picture.
Yes.
Until you put some faces to the numbers.
Okay.
We know that when we start talking about PPH, you hear, oh, I lost a mother, I lost a sister, I lost a cousin, I lost a friend, relative, and so on. When we look at according to the government statistics, we lose about 355 women out of every 100,000 women who deliver.
That's a big number.
I can see you're shocked.
Yes.
Now, and you see that is an estimation. Why? Because there is underreporting, serious underreporting. When you look at international organizations, talk about WHO, World Health Organization, talk about UNFPA, and so on, they put our statistics at a lot higher, at about 550 out of every 100,000 women who deliver. Now, in Kenya, we have an average delivery per year, about 1.6 million women deliver every year. So if we lose 550 out of every 100,000, so we lose 5,500 in 1 million. And remember, there is 600 remaining, so we throw in another 300 and something. So we lose about almost 6,000, almost going to 7,000 women every year during delivery or soon after delivery. And out of all these deliveries, let's just use a round figure, let's say 6,000. Out of these 6,000 women who die every year, 40 to 45% of them, the reason is postpartum hemorrhage. And as I said, postpartum hemorrhage, because the uterus does not contract when it should. They are what we call cervical tears, because if we look at the uterus as a balloon, where you blow in air, we call it the cervix. And then where the air goes in, actually that is the uterus itself. And that is where the baby, stays during pregnancy. So if you have tears in the cervix and they're not recognized early enough, it will lead to postpartum hemorrhage. If we have patients who have an anemia, where anemia is basically the amount of blood is lower than it is supposed to be, and the norm is supposed to be around 11 onwards to around 13, 14, and we have seen patients who come to hospital with an HB or anemia of, let's say, 6, 5. We have seen even 3 point something grams per deciliter, and some of them have never had a visit. They have never been seen by a doctor or even a midwife or even a medical officer. Some of them have no idea about their blood group, and so on. So we have all these issues that actually contribute to these very high numbers, and that is in Kenya. When you come to Africa, the highest number of maternal mortality rates is actually in Southern Sudan, which is about 1,200, out of every 100,000 who deliver. Followed by, I think, if I'm not very sure, but I think Chad is second with 1,067 out of every 100,000. Nigeria is third with 1,043. Central Africa Republic 863, Somalia is 621, and so on. And then it's very unfortunate that actually all these countries are in sub-Saharan Africa.
Yes.
But then the other end of the pyramid, or of the spectrum, we have countries whereby maternal mortality rates are very low. For example, in Western countries, Western Europe, you find in the UK, for example, it's about 5 out of every 100,000. There are countries like Netherlands, which are about the same. Poland has 2 out of every 100,000. Slovenia has 0. Luxembourg has 0, and so on. So it is quite a wide spectrum, unfortunately.
And these days, PPH deaths are preventable?
They are preventable.
Yes.
Actually, we call it preventable maternal deaths. And why are they preventable? They are preventable because we can actually know that the chances of this patient who is here with us is going to have PPH are very high. Why? Because if you have risk factors, for example, a patient has come who is carrying twins or even triplets, because with these days we do quite a bit of in vitro fertilization, that is assisted reproductive technologies, and you find these patients come with twins. That is a risk factor. When you take the history, the medical history and obstetric history, you find that this patient has delivered big babies. For example, the other time when I was in KNH, we had a patient who delivered, the first baby was 6 kilos.
6 kilos.
The second one was 4.7 kilos. The third one was 4.5 kilos. The fourth one was 4.2. That was the smallest baby she had delivered. And she delivered vaginally. So that in itself is a risk, a very, very high risk factor. Because then, you know, when you have a big baby, the uterus is very stretched. Yes. And once the patient has delivered, that mechanism of contracting that uterus can be sort of inhibited, so you find she starts bleeding. Okay. Patients who have diabetes in pregnancy, or even normally, because sometimes even those ones who have diabetes can and do get pregnant, that is a risk factor. Why? Because normally patients who have gestational diabetes or even normal diabetes, they tend to have big babies. Patients who have had PPH before, that is also a risk factor. Patients who have fibroids, and fibroids are basically growths on the uterus, and this can lead to overstretching of the uterus, and when the uterus now starts to contract, the fibroids, wherever they are, they will inhibit the contractions, leading to PPH. Anemia that we talked about, when the HB level is low, the clotting mechanism does not work the way it is supposed to work. Age is also a factor. You have young girls, 15, 14, 13, who come to deliver because they are basically children. So their bodies are not yet prepared to actually do what? To actually go through the whole process, very complicated and very traumatic to the body, and in order for the body to now protect itself against bleeding. Mature women, I don't want to use the word old women, mature women, 35 years and above, around 40, and especially if it is the first time they're delivering, that is also a risk factor. Why? Because most of them also come with high blood pressure, preeclampsia, and so on, and these combined will actually lead to that, and so on.
Okay. Now, Naomi, let's talk about access to adequate skilled healthcare, especially in rural areas. Yeah. It should be one of the contributing factors that lead to PPH.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Dr. has really talked about the risk factors. Yes. And also what happens. But okay, in these rural areas. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes there are no adequate health care workers, and if they are there, maybe they are not of that higher level. You cannot have an obstetrician in a level 1 or level 2. So you find that, you know, in health or when you are managing any complication, it must be multidisciplinary. You can't manage it in isolation. You must have the midwives, you must have the doctors, the obstetricians, for you, the lab and all that. So you get in these low facilities or in rural areas, there are no laboratories because the blood cannot be kept in the wards. The blood is kept in the laboratory. There are no obstetricians. There are no enough midwives. So you get that women are really compromised when they go deliver in such facilities. And also in those rural areas, no, but because of the distances or because of also transport, they don't even access those facilities. So most of the women deliver at home, and it is very risky to deliver at home and get a postpartum hemorrhage. Remember, we have said that bleeding is intense and it comes out very fast. So from a rural facility, for you to transport that client from home to the hospital, they will have lost a lot of blood. Yeah, so women in rural facilities or rural areas are really, it is a real challenge.
What do you think needs to be done to maybe at least mitigate those effects? Do we open, or do we allow now obstetricians to level 1s, or because sometimes cases of such cases result to referrals, which sometimes takes time.
Yeah.
How do we address that?
Yeah, thank you. Depending with the area, because if the area is well populated, you can upgrade the hospitals. Yeah, because you cannot post someone who is an obstetrician or a doctor to a facility where they are seeing only 2 or 3 patients or clients in a day. So because you'll be wasting resources.
Yes.
So if the area is well populated, then you can have the facilities upgraded to a bigger facility, so that you can be able to have all the healthcare workers that you need.
Yeah.
Yes.
Daktari, what are the symptoms? Can one tell that they have this, or they are predisposed to it?
Maybe before I answer your question, I just felt I'm itching to add on to what you was what you were saying when you talk about health personnel. The obstetricians in this country are almost 700 in number, which is a relatively good number, but we are not there yet. Most of the obstetricians, my colleagues, are actually in Nairobi. Nairobi has the lion's share of consultants, which is about 200 plus. But does that mean that Nairobi is well served in terms of services? Not necessarily, because you may find that most of these, my colleagues, are actually in private practice, and very few of them are in public service. When you go out there to the counties, you'll find that in as much as Nairobi is very well served, at least in terms of numbers, there are counties whereby you find we have maybe 2 consultants in a whole county. Others, they have 3, and so on. So you find that even if these consultants were to work 25 hours a day, they will have very little dent on what we are talking about. So we have issues of human resource. The other time, I think 2 weeks ago, I was in a meeting. We went for a meeting in Uganda with some of the health ministers from Homa Bay, from Murang'a, and so on, from Nairobi as well. We just went to understand what our colleagues are doing in Uganda. And what came out was very interesting, in that they have stopped. It was a political decision. They have stopped building health centers. They're not building any health centers. So as we are discussing, our colleagues, the health minister said, look, in my county, we have 151 health centers, which are manned by a nurse, So, and then some of them lack manpower, but the health centers are there. Okay, so you're wondering now, we open these health centers because it looks nice politically that you're doing something, but essentially, actually, you are not doing anything. If anything, you are stretching the health manpower to almost to be very thin on the ground, such that they are not even effective at all. So our colleagues in Uganda decided they are not opening up any health centers. What they are doing, they are upgrading them to level 3s, which is the same as our level 2 or level 3 hospitals. And what are they doing? They are saying in every level 3 hospital, they are going to have an operation theater. And with operation theater, now they are sending the personnel down to those level 3s. What is the knock-on effect of this? The knock-on effect is that their maternal mortality rates, which were 505 in 2000, the year 2000, 2002, now it's 189. So it has had significant impact on what is happening. Of course, there are a lot of issues as well, issues of supply, issues of medications, issues of sometimes late referrals, issues of absenteeism, and so on and so forth. But you can see that they are doing something to that effect. Now, coming back to where we are, if you have a consultant in a county, 2 consultants in a county, we really need to rethink what we are doing. The problem is that we have 47 counties with 47 ministries of health, with 47 different priorities, and so on. So in one county, the governor can be very magnanimous and say, please go and study and whatever, and come back so that you can help our people. And you can actually see the impact. Look at Makueni, for example, for instance. His Excellency, the governor, we had a meeting with him the other day. He's actually one of our honorary members, and he's actually a champion of PPH. And we are, very proud to be associated with him. and his wife. And what they have done is that he's very open and he's helping, and we can actually see the impact. How do we distribute this very precious resource that we have? I think, that is my opinion, having a sort of a centralized system. We have 700 obstetricians, consultant obstetricians and gynecologists. We have, let's say, 20 gynecologists, oncologists. But how do we work with what we have so that Kenyans of all walks in life should actually have better health? An authority which actually says in Homa Bay, you need an extra consultant. So, Dr. Kireki, can you go and work in Homa Bay? In Moyale, I think you need 4 consultants. Can we get Dr. Njoroge, Dr. Maina, Dr. Omondi and whatever to go and work there? I think that if we had such an authority, it would sort of help. But that is not the end of it. We have human resource. We also need medications. Sometimes a research was done, and with some of my colleagues from the department, Professor Qureshi, Professor Alfred Osoti, Dr. George Gwako, and actually what came out is that some of the medications we have in Kenya are actually very poor quality. Yeah. Fake medicines. So a patient is having PPH, you give her an injection, you expect that uterus to start contracting, and it doesn't. And you give another injection, and it doesn't work. Why? Because the medication we have is actually fake. So we have medications. We have issues of stock out. You may need this medication, and it is not there. We have issues of blood. I'm very happy that you talked about blood. In Kenya, we collect 276,000 units of blood. That's small bag that we have that you're given in hospital is 1 unit, and that is barely 60% of what we need as a country. As a country, we need a lot more. We need about 500,000 units of blood in a year. And guess what? 70% of the 276,000 units that we get, we collect as a country, 70% of it is used by who? By our mothers who are delivering. Sometimes we are in a pickle because you go and you are operating and you can see this is massive PPH, and you say, I need 5 units, I need 6 units now. You are told you can get 1 unit. Sasa jipange. How do you, what do you do with 1 unit? You know, that sort of thing. Now, so we need human resource, we need medications, we need blood, we need commodities, because as that woman is bleeding, there are things we can use, there are things which we can insert inside the uterus so that it stops bleeding and it starts contracting. Some of them are not available, completely not available. We did a research through COGS, whereby we actually I actually commissioned my colleagues from the office, COGS office, to call every county hospital and sub-county hospitals, 94 of them, to find out whether they have something you call uterine balloon tamponade. And guess what? About 48 to 50% of those hospitals refuse to give information because they said these are government hospitals and we don't give information. The ones that gave us information, I think it was about 5% of them who actually had one of them, just one of that. And this is a single-use device. It's about 5% of them who had one. And a huge majority of them had even never heard about something called a uterine balloon tamponade. And it's something which is life-saving, simple and not expensive, but not available. The next pillar that we need is an ICU. When you have a patient who is bleeding and is literally like a tap, and you have done everything, you have done the surgery, you've used medications, you've given blood, she needs to be monitored. How many ICU beds do we have? It's a challenge. What we have is that we have a room called an ICU, but most of the time it does not have equipment, it does not have personnel, and so on. So in order for us to actually reduce these numbers, we need to have all these pillars together. Remove one of them and you're going losing me.
Okay. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we are continuing with this conversation centering around postpartum hemorrhage. Don't go too far.
Greetings in the name of the Most High, Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra niceness of reggae music,
extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
On KBC Channel 1, we are a TV station like no other. Get a taste of the best in entertainment.
Yes, indeed.
Feel the passion.
Will you promise me?
I swear that you will never lose me. I can't get married to you.
I'm sure you knew about it. That's why you're making fun of me.
Experience the drama.
Get out.
Who's the man in this one?
And the laughter.
Hii wigi umevakishwa. Sile wakati tulikuwa tunapishwa tunapewa mheshimiwa.
Move to the beat.
We are live from Broadcasting House.
And get informed on the latest happenings. KBC Channel 1.
Wow. Yeah!
We are the full package.
Oh, yes.
And Kenya's watching.
Thank you very much for joining us.
At 33 minutes past the hour, welcome back to Good Morning Kenya. We are talking about postpartum hemorrhage. And Naomi, one of the things that one of my colleagues has asked me, does home water bath, can it lead to PPH? You know, there are those people who decide to give birth at home.
Yes.
They have a big basin, water.
Yes. No. Of course, PPH is not cannot be caused by the how you are the mode of delivery.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, delivering at home, maybe that is where the issue is, delivering at home. Otherwise, the mode how you're going to give birth cannot lead to PPH. And whatever we said, even when we were starting, you cannot even be able to say that client will get PPH and this one will not get PPH. You cannot be able to predict. Of course, sometimes you become prepared throughout, but you cannot be able to say this one is the one who will get PPH, the other one will not get PPH.
Okay.
This one, because she has delivered through vaginal delivery, will get PPH. The one who has delivered through cesarean section will get PPH, or the one who has delivered through a stool bath, because there is also a stool bath. There is also delivering through that water bath will get PPH. No. It is not how or what they have used to give birth or to deliver will cause PPH.
But there is also an importance when you give birth. Let's say you have given birth at home.
Yes.
Is there a need to seek medical attention after?
Yes. Thank you for that question, and a very important question. Yes. We encourage every woman who gives birth at home to go to the hospital. Remember, when we were talking about the definition of PPH, you have two types of PPH. You can get primary PPH that occurs after birth and within 24 hours after birth. That is primary PPH. Okay. There's also secondary PPH that occurs between 24 hours after birth to up to 6 weeks after birth. So you might have even delivered today and you get PPH even tomorrow. So it is very important for this woman who has delivered home to go to the hospital to be checked, of course, to be given after birth. You get some medication or some medicine to help to contract the uterus. They are called uterotonics. So it is important for them to go to the hospital so that they can get the uterotonic and also to be checked. Remember, Daktari talked about the predisposing factors of PPH. There are also the causes, the real causes of PPH. And the real causes of PPH, we define them in four T's.
Okay.
Yeah. The first T, he talked about it. It is tone. Tone, it is when the uterus contracts. That is one cause. If there is no tone or the uterus does not contract, then the patient will get PPH or the client will get PPH. Then the second T is trauma. And I was talking about it because you might have delivered at home and you get trauma. Get trauma of the vaginal trauma or cervical trauma or even the trauma of the uterus. So it's good to be checked in the hospital so that you can be checked whether you have trauma. Of course, at home, you are not able to check whether the cervix has trauma. You cannot be able to check at home. In the hospital, you'll be able to check maybe the outer part, the perineum and maybe the vagina, but at home, you cannot be able to see the cervix because you have to use a speculum to be able to see the cervix or even the uterus. Then the third T is tissues. PPH or postpartum hemorrhage can be caused by tissues. The tissues include the placenta that was supporting this baby. When you leave a tissue or a tissue is left in the uterus will not be able to contract. So it will, the client will get postpartum hemorrhage. So it is very important for this client to go to the hospital to be checked whether there are tissues. It can be placenta, it can be blood clot, whether they have been left inside the uterus and they will make the uterus not to contract, so they will be checked in the hospital. And the other T is thrombin, and this one is when the blood is not able to clot. Because sometimes some clients deliver, the percentage is not very big, but there are clients who deliver and the blood cannot be able to clot. So they continue bleeding and they need to be in the hospital so that they can be managed. Because when they are in the hospital, they will be managed. Yeah.
Okay. Daktari.
Yes.
Let's talk about symptoms of PPH. Yes.
Just as the name suggests, it's just bleeding, excessive bleeding. Just as we said, vaginal delivery, more than 500 milliliters. And during a cesarean section, over 1,000 milliliters.
Yes.
Will the patient or the client know that she's actually having PPH? Sometimes they do, because she has delivered, she has her baby, and then she feels wet, saying, "Sister, I'm feeling wet." You know, and when you look at the linen, you find she's lying actually in a pool of blood. So it is basically bleeding. That is the first indicator. And then as she loses more of this blood, other systems will kick in to try and prevent the excessive loss of blood. You'll find that her hands start becoming cold and clammy. Why? Because the vessels contract, trying not to lose as much blood as possible. Once that has happened, her blood pressure starts dropping. So you find the normal blood pressure is 120 over 70 over 100 over 80. You find that her blood pressure started dropping. It's 90 over 50, 80 over 30, and so on. Her heartbeat starts going up. Why? Because now because there is less blood in the system, so the heart starts pumping a lot faster to try and send the little blood that is there to all the organs. So you find what we call the pulse starts going high. So when you come to see her, cold, clammy hands or limbs for that matter, blood pressure is dropping, but the pulse has increased. She is already in what you call hemorrhagic shock. Now, next what happens is that the body tries to compensate and tries to channel the little blood that is there to the very important organ, which is the brain. Okay, so you find, yes, everything is happening, this is happening, but she slowly starts losing consciousness, starts feeling dizzy because not enough blood supply is going to the brain, not enough oxygen is going to the brain, not the waste is also building up in the system, so the systems start shutting down slowly by slowly. The first one which shuts up is the kidneys. So there is no urine that comes out. When you do a blood test, you find the liver is not functioning the way it should. And then unfortunately, she may go into a coma, or even before she goes into a coma, she will have a cardiac arrest. Why the cardiac arrest? Because the heart is pumping too fast and it cannot compensate for the blood loss, and then it is too much for it and it just stops. And from there now, most of the time, unfortunately, is downhill, as it were. And then they end up having, because there is no enough circulation, no enough blood circulating, no enough oxygen, you find what we call injury to the brain, what we call ischemic injury to the brain. Why? Because the brain tissue is not getting what it is supposed to get, so it ends up getting injured. And even if you resuscitate this patient and then you manage to get the heart working and you know, give her the fluids and so on, the injury to the brain is actually one of the biggest problems that we have, and it can be actually terminal in the sense that yes, we have managed to revive the organs, but the most important, which is the brain, is not working the way it should. So she ends up coming in a what you call a vegetative state, whereby all the other organs are working, but the brain is not working the way it should. And it's very sad that we do.
Let me ask this: are there methods of diagnosing PPH?
The bleeding. The most important thing is how much has the patient lost.
Yes.
That is the diagnosis.
This happens pre-birth?
No. After delivery.
Okay.
After she has delivered. But as Naomi was saying, the predisposing factors that we talked about, the big babies that she has delivered, anemia, which affects about 14 to 20% of our patients. So if we can sort out anemia right during pregnancy, we'll actually reduce our PPH by about 15 to 20%. You know, that sort of thing. If a patient has fibroids, the growths that I talked about, and by the way, 30 to 60% of women of African origin, whether it is in Kenya, whether it is in the US, whether it's in Cuba, so long as you have African blood, you'll have a tendency of having these fibroids. And these fibroids are usually many and they are big. So once we identify these patients who have these risk factors, we should identify them and profile them, and these are the ones we actually should follow up very, very seriously during the ANC visits.
Okay. Now,
maybe to add on what Dr. is saying, it is very, very important to have antenatal clinic and visits for every pregnant woman. And during the clinics, that is the time you can be able to detect some of the things that might lead to PPH, like what he has talked about.
So we're talking prevention now.
Yeah, hemoglobin level, prevention. Yeah, hemoglobin level. How is the HB of that patient at that particular time? Because they can be. Sometimes you might find that the HB is so low, you need to either transfuse, or you need to use dietary supplementation, or you need to use iron. And every pregnant woman gets iron and folic acid during pregnancy to boost their level of blood. And also you are able to advise on diet early enough. Okay? Then in this antenatal clinic, you will also get this woman with multiple pregnancy. Multiple pregnancy is what he talked about: twins, triplets, quadruplets. You will be able to identify. And when you get that this woman as multiple gestation or pregnancy, you are able to tell them deliver in the hospital, because you will not be able to wait for them or deliver them just like any other patient. This is a woman who is at risk of getting postpartum hemorrhage.
Very high risk, if anything.
Very high risk. A woman with a big baby, what we call macrosomic baby. Yes. A baby who is 4 point something kilograms. It's not the same as the woman who has a baby who is 3.1, 2 point something. And this one cannot only be detected during pregnancy because they have obstetric ultrasounds. So it is very important for women to visit antenatal clinic, because these risk factors, they are even defined in the antenatal risk factors and intrapartum. Intrapartum are the ones that occur during that period of delivery. Yes. But they are the risk factors that you can detect them during pregnancy. So it is very important for women to go for the visits. Previously, there used to be 4 visits. Then later 8 visits. There is a debate about the 8 visits, but every woman should visit an antenatal clinic.
Yes.
Yes.
Let me, due to the interest of time, let me throw this question to both of you, and I'll start with you. What do you think are the strategies that can be employed by both the government and the players within the healthcare industry to enhance efforts of blood donation to ensure that cases of PPH are mitigated to reduce deaths due to blood loss?
Thank you. That is a very nice, very good question, because previously there used to be campaigns in schools. There used to be blood drive campaigns in schools. Then during COVID time, there not go to those schools. And also, you know, we must reach a point that blood is supposed to be donated voluntary.
Yes.
Voluntary, not going to schools and ask those boys and girls to donate blood. Every Kenyan, like if I may ask, have you ever donated even a single pint? Every adult, you should have donated blood in the hospital. And I said previously, blood is not bought. Yes. Blood comes from a human being. Okay. So what can be done is a lot of education about blood and about blood products, because it is not only blood that is used. It is, we use blood and we also use blood products. Blood products are like plasma and packed red cells. They are still in blood. Okay. And remember, even these women that we are delivering, some have types of blood that are very rare to get. Yes. And when now we have this rare blood, and this woman gets postpartum hemorrhage, it becomes a big problem. Okay. So we should have campaigns all over, in churches, in schools, and all over, and even in this studio, to ask Kenyans, to ask even these people in this studio to go and donate blood. Right. Come to the health facility. There are satellites where you go. You say that I've come to donate. Make sure you have an effort of donating blood every year. Right. Give one pint of blood. Okay. It will help another Kenyan.
All right, Dr. Briefly, as we
very
close.
Briefly.
Yes.
I think we can look at this in, let's say, different prongs, as it were. As a society that is COGS, University of Nairobi, Midwifery Association, we are actually have come up with a strategy, and that strategy is we are holding a PPH run, and that is on the 6th of October. Okay. What is the purpose of this? Number one is to create awareness about PPH. And so we are welcoming all of them, all the Kenyans, yourself included, yes. People in the studio, yes. And so on. Please come. Yeah. Register at www.endpph.com. Come and run. You can run, you can walk, you can jog, you can ride your bicycle, and so on. Right. And it's for all ages. Why are we doing this? Number one, creating knowledge is power. So when Kenyans know that there is something called PPH, and these are the whatevers, so that is one of the strategies. At the PPH run, we'll have a blood donation unit if you want to donate blood. Okay. We want to create an app whereby people can actually put their names, especially the ones with very distinct blood groups, or negative, for example. They can join in, and so on. So that is a strategy. Right. And of course the government can educate more people, distribute them, human resource, as we said, make sure there are medicines in the hospitals, make sure that we have commodities, and of course an environment which is enabling. So please come for that run. Let us create awareness. We are starting with Nairobi. We'll go to other counties later on, maybe next year. And our aim is for this to be an annual thing in the country.
Okay. All right. I'm told we are overrunning. But that was our time. That is Dr. Kireki Omano, who is the president of Kenya Obstetrical and Gynecological Society of Kenya, and Naomi Mutiso, who is the midwife at Thika Level 5 Hospital, talking to us about matters to do with postpartum hemorrhage. This is where we cap this conversation and the entire Good Morning Kenya. Thank you for tuning in. Let's do this tomorrow morning. Enjoy the rest of your viewing.
you for joining us on Healthy Living. Stay connected to Voice of America at voanews.com. A look at your kidneys and how they impact your health. And an expert discusses chronic kidney disease and how to protect yourself. And Ivorian psychologist Noor Bakayoko shares some insights on bullying and what can be done.
It's important to avoid major events or major health crises.
How do you know if your cough is due to a serious condition? We'll have some answers. Stay well
and strive to make every day a healthy day.
What are you doing? What are you trying to tell the whole class? You better not have taken my pictures when I was trying to put on those boxes. I will slaughter you.
You want us to believe you carried fresh meat in a kawago.
You can believe what you want, my friend. If only you could study with such energy.
Stop interfering. We are not interested in your unnecessary details. Actually, we are not even interested on whose house you're going to destroy.
Julia, you are very lucky. I don't want to spoil my nails because next time, where?
It was a wagon, his dad's wagon, the one that he drives on Thursdays.
How did you even know he drives a wagon on Thursdays? Women are poking their noses. So,
back to the basics. How does an AI chatbot learn to talk to its environment and know what to say? The most important component of chatbots is a so-called LLM, a large language model. That's an AI program that can recognize and interpret human language. A large language model is an AI program that recognizes and interprets human language. LLMs use machine learning to understand how characters, words and sentences work together, creating neural networks with many layers, processing large amounts of data. These networks learn by recognizing patterns, for example in language, then weighting and scoring them. This network is learning to recognize the number 9. The more frequently a pattern occurs, the more weight the network places on it. In this way, important patterns are reinforced. Through feedback and repeated training, LLMs learn to understand and generate natural language. The LLM's performance depends on the quality of training data. LLMs are often trained with data from the internet. A pre-selected dataset is more suitable here because errors can be filtered out beforehand. $25 billion were invested in the development of generative AI models such as ChatGPT in 2023 alone, 8 times more than the year before. And the market for AI software that can read your emotions is also growing. It doesn't even have to look you in the face. Natural language processing software is being used by companies worldwide to analyze their customers' and employees' emotional states. A study conducted by Jonathan Kreitler during the COVID pandemic shows just how well the AI systems work. The co-founder and president of the emotion AI startup Receptivity analyzed the Reddit posts of 6,500 nurses and doctors with his proprietary software. Looking at close to 4 million comments over the course of 4 years, Kreitler curated a database for researchers worldwide. The goal? Advance the detection of psychological distress and trauma.
There's actually an incredibly wide variety of insights that are available from our assessments. We can understand, simpler concepts like personality, but we can also understand psychological traits and understand how people change in the moment, depending on the context. What we found was that even early in the pandemic, even before the World Health Organization declared a pandemic, we could see some of the early indicators of what would ultimately lead to burnout. Things like elevated cognitive load.
All that is needed is everyday communication such as emails, Slack messages or social media posts. But while sifting through communications, the software doesn't just look for obvious descriptions of feelings, but also for so-called function words such as pronouns. How we use these can reveal a lot about our mental state. People with depression, for example, use significantly more first-person singular pronouns like I, me, and myself. According to psychologists, people who are depressed are often highly self-aware or self-focusing. This applies across languages and cultures, and AI could help spot this so-called language of depression.
A lot of the patterns that exist that we're analyzing are the same across cultures and contexts. It's less about what people are talking about and how language can provide insight into how they're thinking about themselves and the context they're in and how they relate to the context they're in and to the other people around them. It's very much a social psychological phenomena that we're focused on. And that exists regardless of the cultures or languages you're communicating in.
AI can not only analyze text, but also voice messages. The use cases are plentiful. Analyzing how people interact with chatbots grants companies insights into the user's mindset.
A really interesting recent use of our technology was to help with vaccine uptake in underprivileged communities. So what one of our customers was finding is that if they could understand how some of these populations think and how they consume information, they could do a better job of tailoring the messaging around the benefits and really the reasons why these vaccines should be used to this community and improve vaccine uptake.
After conducting interviews with community members, the language model was used to create a detailed community profile. This allowed to custom tailor the message to a specific part of the population, addressing benefits and concerns. A method that comes from advertising and marketing and is becoming more and more common. So-called travel bots are now also using emotion AI to offer users customized travel tips. Just one example is the voice AI app Avi. The app is currently being tested, and based on your wishes and personality, it can put together a trip through New York City, for example. First, you'll have to rate a few pictures and answer some simple questions. The app then creates a kind of psychological profile of you. Using that as a foundation, you then receive personalized travel recommendations. But what does it mean for our privacy when AI companies use our data? Meta, for example, officially says that it uses our publicly accessible Facebook and Instagram photos and texts to train its AI. What happens then? What about programs that can analyze our facial expressions? Who uses this data and what for? Regulation can hardly keep up with innovation, leaving us exposed to potential dangers.
For AI to find acceptance and responsible usage, people need to know what they are doing and how they are working, what they are trained on. Understanding leads to better assessment.
AI will continue to understand us and our emotions better. That's a fact. It will make everyday tasks easier. But we will have to stay vigilant with how we give out and protect our data. In the wrong hands, our data could easily be used against us. I want to know what you think about all this. Leave a comment and let us know. That's it from us this week. See you next time.
Mtazamaji, tumekuandalia taarifa zinazogonga vichwa vya vyombo vya habari kutoka hapa jijini Nairobi na pia mashinani.
Wanahabari zaidi ya ubora wao wako ange kukuletea habari pindi zinapochipuka kutoka pembe zote za Kenya.
Kwenye kipindi cha Tamrini, tunakuletea mazungumzo ya moja kwa moja kufafanua na kuangazia masuala yanayokuhusu wewe mtazamaji.
Kumbuka, taarifa yenye thamani daima hupokewa kwa amani.
Hivyo basi usikose kuungana nasi kila siku ya wiki.
Tukupakulie na tukutaarifu taarifa yenye mnato kwenye runinga unayoienzi. Kwenye kurunzi mashinani,
sisi DC.
Greetings in the name of the Most High Jah Rastafari. My good name is Marley Moses, the positive warrior, alongside...
Yes, sir, DJ D-Rage, the baddest. Each and every Wednesday from 10 p.m. on KBC Channel 1 TV.
Tunakuletea the biggest reggae party in 254 in a yard extra. Extra niceness of reggae music.
Extra dose of entertainment.
When the thing is nice,
we have to do it twice.
Good morning and welcome to News Check on this, the 24th of September 2024. Today we have a lot in store for you in terms of what we're going to discuss regionally here in the East African region, as well as carbon credits in terms of climate change. Where are we, given that this particular government has been advocating for Kenya as well as other African nations to divulge in the carbon credits? We're also keeping an eye on various events that are happening across the country, including the ASK International Trade Fair at the Jumuhuri grounds is still ongoing, with the Cabinet Secretary of Education, that is Julius Migoso Gamba, is expected to talk about the new university funding model. You are aware that students had attempted to go to the street, but they gave the ministry as well as the government an opportunity to relook at the new university funding model, as well as various committees that are happening at the corridors of the Augusta House. And of course, in relation to what happened yesterday in terms of the Adani JKIA deal, today the National Assembly's Committee on Public Debt and Privatization are expected to have a follow-up meeting with the Principal Secretary of the National Treasury on the status of the proposal by the Adani Holding Limited for the investment in the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Already our parliamentary team is on ground, as well as the National Tourism Week celebration held in Kisumu. We'll be linking up with our very own, that is Wycliffe, later on. And of course, we'll have links from the coastal city, that is Mombasa, as well. That is what we have lined up for you this morning. But in terms of our discussion, we want to focus on the Democratic Republic of Congo, what has been happening there in terms of the civil war that has seen approximately 6 million people rather have been killed since 1996, and more than 6 million people remain internally displaced in the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of Congo. And why is this important? Why are we having this conversation right now? It's because at the ongoing United General Assembly that is happening in New York in the United States of America, we do understand Congolese residing in that particular area will be taking to the street at least to voice their concerns of what has been happening within their own country.